Alex, this is called the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and I'd be curious to know what that phrase "Go Earn Your Salt" means to you.
Oh man, it may just be a season in my life, but I really believe that, earning your salt is not just absorbing knowledge, but sharing it. And it's I don't think you've earned anything until you've given it away. So all the knowledge that you gain in jujitsu, all the knowledge you gain in life, all the knowledge that you gain in your business, whatever it may be, if you're not sharing that with other people, I really don't believe that you're earning anything.
You are listening to the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, brought to you by Salty Electrolytes. On this podcast, your host Riley Rogers explores the stories of people who get after it, get things done, and earn their salt. You will hear from high achievers who discuss what makes them tick, how they got to where they are today, and where they're headed tomorrow. Perhaps this podcast will help you go earn your salt. I welcome to the show today my friend Alex Martinez. He's the host of the BJJ Foxcast and the owners of Aries East Mesa Jiu Jitsu Academy. Um, Alex and I have become friends here just over the years. We met on the internet, didn't we? And yeah,
Yeah.
with Salt Electrolytes, and we got introduced that way, and yeah, built and maintained that friendship here, and we're both jujitsu fans and practitioners, and have a lot in common there. So, Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It's just a long time coming.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited. I said we have a lot in common, and there's a lot of stuff going on in your world that really interests me, and I yeah, I want you on here to pick your brain a bit. So some of this is selfish, man. I get some wisdom from you.
Ah, yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it. And likewise, man. I mean, you got a lot going on too. So yeah, just this will be a great conversation.
Yeah, this is great, man. So talk about you. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what was life like as a kid.
Yeah. So I grew up in South Texas, Brownsville, Texas. Graduated Hannah High School. Go Eagles. But left there in '91, joined the Navy, and basically I needed to get away from Texas because my life kind of took a turn, and I knew it was just a matter of time before I got into real trouble. Had a couple friends that went to prison shortly after high school for real big crimes. I never had the stomach, for that, for the stuff they were doing, but if you're in the same car with them and they're doing stuff, you just kind of, you're part of it now. So I kind of knew that was coming, and yeah, joined the Navy at the request of my oldest brother, and yeah, went to boot camp in '91, and I became I went to gun school, and yeah, ended up on a ship for a few years. Went to Panama for a couple years, and shore duty, and and then when I got out of the Navy in 2000. I really, honestly, I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew I was getting out, because I had kids, and they were little, and wasn't really I wasn't really interested in being a remote dad that showed up periodically between deployments. So yeah, I had to make a decision, and honestly, like there's a class that the Navy puts you through when you're getting out, right? Well, not just the Navy, but the military itself. They put you through this class. At the time, it was called TAPS class. I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but basically, it was like a transition from military service to civilian world. And they teach you like how to do resumes, how to do interviews, and all they have headhunters that work with how to dress for interviews, stuff like that. Things we have no idea because we've been wearing uniforms for so long. We
Sure.
we knew what we were going to wear day to day, right? So yeah, so I got on with a company, really had no idea what I was doing. But they had a program where they were hiring military folks at the time that were trainable, and they trained you up and you became a technician. And that's kind of how I started in this, in this civilian life. Um, I made the mistake. I hate to say that wasn't a mistake, but I always joke that it was a mistake. I joined the reserves in August of 2000, so not too long after I'd gotten out. I'm sorry, 2001. So, and then September happened, and then I got basically redeployed. I got called back to active duty in December of 2001. spent another 6.5 months, on active duty. Really didn't do a whole lot. We just ran security at a supply depot. Got sent home because they ran out of money. And yeah, so like I said before, I joked that I spent 9 years, 6 months, and 28 days in the Navy. So on active duty anyway. But yeah, so yeah, so shortly after that, I moved to Arizona, and I've been here ever since.
Well, you said your brother got you into the military, but was like his idea, or was he just your connection there?
So he was already in the military. He had been in for, gosh, man, maybe 3 or 4 years
Mhm.
before I joined. And, he knew what path I was on. It was not good. So he really encouraged me. He said, "Hey, man, you'll learn a marketable skill. If you hate it, you get out in 4 years and then you're just done, and then, luckily the Navy lowered their standards and I got in and it pretty much saved my life, man. It really did. I had to basically go out and reinvent myself, which which sounds great on the outside, but then I'll go into this later. But you kind of forget who you are when you go out and reinvent yourself. So you spend a lot of time trying to figure that piece out because you're kind of detached from you know your former life, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, that can be the identity thing, man. Maybe we get into that conversation a little bit more, but I know when I just switched business careers, I went through a business failure and a bankruptcy, and that identity change
Mm,
from, I was the window and siding guy in the construction world. That's how people knew me, and they'd come to me for advice and,
yeah.
projects and those kind of things. And all of a sudden, there was this like limbo where, dude,
Mm,
I didn't have a thing. I didn't have a new thing. And somebody would come up to me and go, "Hey, what do you do?" And I go, "I was the between jobs guy for a little while." And that was hard to deal
yeah.
with. That hit me way harder than I thought it would.
Yeah. It's you know I would say the only difference is like you had an identity and it was almost like a crisis, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
what do I do now? I mean, it's hit my wife and I a couple times. Like the first time I felt like anxiety about like my identity is when you wake up one morning and you've got no one to drive around. Like all the kids are grown up, they got their own licenses, and do they need you anymore?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Of course they do, right? But you go through that little bit of anxiety. And the second is when the kids moved out. Our last, son Zachary moved out, and Amy, it hit her hard because she's like, I've been mom for 26 years. Like, who am I now? And I'm like, who cares? Enjoy the silence.
It's funny because I'm right at that. My kids are 15, 18, and 22 now. And
Hmm.
yeah, we're looking at that kind of real seriously. I've,
Yeah.
all my buddies in my peer group, they're empty nesting now, or getting close to it, and it's hard, man. That's hard on them. It's
Yeah. It's really difficult. And I went through that, when I went off and joined the Navy. Like I said, I wanted to reinvent myself because I was just not a good person at the time. Did a lot of things that I don't want to say like they're regrettable, right? I don't regret my life, but they're regrettable things that I did. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like, well, who do I want to be? And you end up like mimicking other people, right? Almost following their dreams and their goals because you don't even know like you don't even have the clarity to know who you are. So how can you become something else, like greater than, who you are? So, so yeah, I kind of latched onto a few people. Yeah, luckily, they were good people and kind of followed their dreams. One of them was I had a friend who was on my ship that wanted to become a Navy SEAL, and he did it. He went, after he got off the boat, he went to SEAL training, got on. He was on few SEAL teams. We lost touch, so I don't know if he retired from the military or not, but he went off to do that. So I kind of followed, right? I kind of followed, and I spent about a good 8 weeks in training, and there's like some pre-training and then the actual classing up and going through training. And during Hell Week, I think Hell Week at the time was week number 6. Now it's like week 3. They just wash them out pretty quick. So yeah, it's like 48 of us went into Hell Week, 24 came out, and I wasn't one of them. So it was very difficult for me after that to have like feel any kind of sense of self worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it
I
wasn't
do.
until, shoot, man, my 40s. It wasn't until my 40s and when I started doing jujitsu, I really started taking it seriously and really immersing myself in jujitsu. That I literally, I always say this, that jujitsu kind of peeled me open and it showed me who I was, and I freaking love that guy. So it took a while, but I got there.
That's me. I do want to get into that as we move into that subject a little later.
Sure, sure,
I
yeah,
Yeah, to the peeling you open thing. That's an interesting way to say it because it is that thing we talk about it
yeah,
a lot in the jujitsu culture of it. The mats don't lie; they tell you the truth, and man, you got to reckon with some pretty tough things sometimes. That truth can be hard.
yeah, yeah. It can be, and I'll tell you, and we can get into this. Like you said, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but I don't want to jump around too much. But yeah, I've got a few examples where the math did not lie and I was wrong.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Talk about military into life. So you said you went into the military to get a marketable skill, and what did you come
Mhm.
out there or come out of it with? What type of marketable skill?
Um, a lot of self-confidence. But as far as something tangible, like I was a gunner's mate, so that means I worked on gun and missile systems. It also means I did a lot of cleaning. You know what I mean? I swept a lot and mopped a lot. You do a lot of that stuff. And if it's like covered in grease, I will have it sparkling in no time, dude. Like I'm champion. Um, but I was a small arms instructor for a while, and really like it wasn't anything that translated into the civilian, especially the job I was going to was very tech oriented. So I did building automation for basically commercial air conditioning. That's what I did when I came out of the Navy. Bro, I had no idea what I was doing. Zero idea what I was doing. And luckily I just I got out. I was very fortunate to be surrounded by people who actually gave a shit and helped me. So that was a fortunate piece, and I ended up going to be a service tech for a while, and then got into some new construction, got into sales, and you know rest is history.
Where you learn to talk, huh? In sales.
Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah. You're always on the ship. You're always hustling because you never have everything you need, and you always have to. It's like a barter system. Where you go to a different shop and have maybe something fabricated or borrow a tool or something like that. You gotta learn to deal with people. You become very close, especially when you're shipboard, but there's still that, like, you're the other, right? You're one of those guys. I work in this shop, you're not one of us, kind of thing. So yeah, you learn to deal with people a lot.
Yeah, it's funny because you say, it wasn't like this certain thing that directly translated to the civilian world, but yet, yes, it was, right? Because you did have to do that, and that's what sales is all about, is you're having to go into someone else's world. You're not really one of them necessarily, and sell them your widget, whatever that happens to be, your goods or
Yeah,
service. And that takes personality, man. It takes some articulation. It takes the confidence you talked about, and I think that's some. Yeah,
yeah.
it translates quite well, actually, as you say that.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah. And it's a rush too, man. It's a rush when you sell somebody. Forget about the money piece, like getting, ink on paper. When you sell someone on a
Yeah,
concept that they never thought of before, and they're like, dude, I'm all in, that is the big rush because the sale comes easy after that,
yeah,
It's very easy to be a transactional, like, I need this fixed, you're the guy to fix it, go get it. But when you're gonna change how someone runs their business, that's a big one, man. It's really
yeah.
cool.
No, that's a fact. It's funny because my other company, not Salt, but I don't know if you know this, but I have a mobile oil change company. I have trucks that run around and
Yep,
change oil.
I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. So in that
Yep.
in that we have to do that quite often because our concept, the way we do business there, is very different from what people are used to. And so it's a total gear shift, man. When we go in there, they're like, man, I've never heard anyone do it the way you guys do it. I'm not sure I even like it. And
Yeah.
so then there's this,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Well, when somebody, like, in your world, I'm sure you can relate to this. When somebody is spending zero on something, and you want them to spend $1, that's a lot of
Yeah.
money, right? So, I mean, when you're doing mobile oil changes and you're talking to somebody about their fleet of trucks and they've never paid a guy to come out and do it,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what the price is. It sounds like a lot of money,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
So
funny thing.
selling them on the
It's a funny
concept is a
thing
big
you
one.
say it that way because my job, I feel like, is to show them that they are spending that money. It's just in a different line item in the books, right?
Yep. Yep.
But
Exactly. Yeah. But they don't see that, right? Because
that's
what
right.
would you say? That's like, whatever, like that's business as usual.
Yeah,
And you're disrupting that and people get very defensive about that
for
disruption.
sure. We work hard on building our systems and make them work, right? So you start going in there screwing
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
It takes some doing. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's
Yeah,
all.
for sure.
So, what would you say? Would what would you say was is your the best advice or not advice? Well, I'm trying to put this into words, man. The best lessons that you took from the military that you were able to bring into the civilian world.
Oh man, like I said, I was surrounded by great people. And one of the pieces of advice that I got early on that really, really helped was if you want to be a good leader, you got to be a great follower. And when you're sitting at a level that I was in, basically making minimum wage, you know what I mean? I was like entry level, just a sailor, working for people that have been doing this for, 10, 15 years. And, you kind of get a little bit too big for your britches sometimes. And you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. This guy doesn't know anything. And you end up making mistakes that these guys saw coming, a mile away because you're a shitty follower, excuse my language, but you're a crappy follower. It costs you, right? It costs you. I mean, you end up looking like you're incompetent. You end up whatever. Instead of just asking questions and being like, "Hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me?" Yeah, um, yeah. That's probably and getting things done the way they should be done is, I mean, it sounds so simple, but taking shortcuts is so easy, right? But when you just don't take a shortcut and you just like I said, be a good follower, do what you're told, you end up learning way more, because you kind of know the whole system now and you can work within that system and quite frankly manipulate it after a
Yeah,
while, right? But you're still working within that framework. So yeah, that was, now Al Haynes, I'll never forget him. He was the one that taught me that, and I use that to this day. When I'm doing something new, like even in jujitsu, learning a new technique, I'm a good follower before I'm a leader.
being a good follower before you can become a good leader is such a cool concept, man. Because I again back into jujitsu culture, we talk about that all the time. The things I've learned from white belts that I go, crap, dude. I don't even think you realize what you did, but that thing you just did, I'm stealing it. It's mine now. I'm gonna take it. And I'm gonna create a lesson out of it.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
I have
absolutely.
this move. I call it the Blair flare, and it was
Yeah.
this blue belt gal who was doing something. I always say she was doing it so wrong that it went clear around the circle back to right again.
I love that. That's so
But yep,
cool.
I named the move after her,
That's
and
so
I still
cool.
use it
I love
today.
it.
So love it.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of lessons that I learned in the military. But that's for some reason that always stuck. Even, I mean, I'm gosh, I'm gonna date myself, but I'm like, what, 23 years removed from that world, and I still remember that to this
Yeah.
day.
Oh, that's a beautiful example of exactly what I was asking, man. Um, I want to move along
Thanks.
because you had briefly mentioned, and so for the audience doesn't know, we tried to record earlier, so we've had some conversation. So if you hear me say you said before, and Alex hasn't actually said before, it's because it was in the other recording that we didn't use. But
Yeah.
triathlon,
Yeah.
you got into that world for a while, and you had mentioned that, and there's some, yeah, certainly some carryover in that,
Yeah.
what we've been talking about into that sport. So talk about triathlon.
Yeah. So one of my superpowers that I found in while I was in the military is being able to do tedious tasks and just shutting my brain off. Like I don't know, if somebody's like punishing me and says, sweep, mop, wax a passageway, hallway, no problem. I can put my head down and just do tedious tasks like a champion. So I remember once I was told to like polish a bell. It was a giant ship's bell. Dude, I was there for like 3.5 hours just polishing the thing, and my brain, I just shut it off. It was fantastic. It was like, and people are like, I had never seen that before, right? No complaints, just doing it. And that came in really handy when I did triathlon. When you're jumping on a bike for 6 hours, you don't want to think about how much pain you're in. You know what I mean? You don't want to think about traffic. You don't want to think about other riders. You're just focused on, I got to knock this out today. And that's just the way it is, man. And then on long runs, I once did 4 hours on a treadmill just to see if I could do it
Holy crap.
because I knew when I'm in the middle of a triathlon, like if I'm mentally weak, I'm going to stop. And what other way? I know this is stupid, but what other way to build mental toughness than to do the most boring thing imaginable? I mean, running's boring as it is, but imagine you're on a treadmill for 4 hours. I did it.
Excited. Yeah, I'm a runner myself, right? And we've talked about that, but
Yeah.
dude, that I'm not sure I wouldn't end it all if I had to do 4 hours on a treadmill, man. I think that's superhuman
Yeah,
what
man.
what you
Yeah.
just said.
And that was my superpower, man. Shut off the brain and just do it.
Holy crap. Yeah, it's funny because I have to do these tricks, right? In order to run. If I have to do laps around something, no way, dude. It's too much repeat. Even if it's
Yeah.
2 laps, it's just too
Yeah.
much repeat. So I do these out and backs, right? That's how I run every time. And I'll
Hmm.
go out to a
Yeah.
point because
Yeah.
that's only half as long as I need to go. And in my brain, I feel like I finished there. And then I just have to run back to the car. Right?
That's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. That's actually way safer than the way I would do it. I would I would look at a map and I would plot a course. Like if I got to do like 8 miles, 10, whatever the run was. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go a couple miles this way. And Arizona, basically all of the not all, but 90% of the roads are on a grid. So it's like a mile this way, a mile that way, a mile this way. You got four, no problem, right? But then you got to increase. I'm going to go a couple miles this way, then a couple miles that way, then come back. Man, I'd be in the middle of a run going, "Oh, I screwed up. I'm in a really bad neighborhood." I outran where the police go. You know what I mean?
Shoot.
So that was pretty scary. Every once in a while, I'd make that mistake, but out and backs, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's funny how we have to play tricks on ourselves sometimes. And it's
Yeah.
funny because it just makes no sense. And why that makes
Right.
things easier or harder, but it sure does. Sure does, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild, man.
So you had said 6 hours on a bike, so
But
that
yeah,
means you've done full Ironman distance.
I've done one. So I did. But the first triathlon I did was a um, mountain bike sprint, and it was on in Papago Park in Tempe. So we swam in Tempe Town Lake, which is
Hmm.
disgusting, and then we hop on mountain bikes. And I had this mountain bike. It was a piece of crap. It was some. I bought it at a pawn shop because I didn't own one, so I bought it at a pawn shop. And there are these guys with some really tricked out mountain bikes, and I'm like just trying to keep up, right? I am so green to this. Like I don't even know like how to carry my water. I had a single bottle of water, all right, and it wasn't cool out. It was kind of warm out. Single bottle of water in that little holder thing, that little down, the down tube on the
Yeah.
bike, that little
Yeah.
holder. And I'm, going up and down hills and I'm hitting things and rocks and shit. And then I reach down, bottle's gone.
Yep.
I didn't have any water. And it was a sprint, so it wasn't supported. They don't have
Aid
like,
stations.
places to,
Yeah.
yeah, aid stations like anything like that, unless you got hurt. And yeah, so then I finished the mountain bike course. I finished a run course. I think that those are like 5Ks or something like that. And the cool thing was they had like a big slip and slide at the end. It was a big giant inflatable slip and slide, so you could cool off in that. But believe it or not, Lance Armstrong has done the same race.
Really.
Yeah, not the year I did it, but he's done that race, that mountain bike sprint. Um, but after that, I just I never signed up for a race that I was ready for.
Hmm.
So if I was, the next, I never did a sprint again. All the other ones were Olis, Olympic distance races that were, I guess they were like a couple hours long. And then I did I did 3 or 4 half Ironman, half Iron distance. They weren't logoed Ironmans. And then I was like, one day I was like, I want to do a full distance triathlon. I want to do I want to do an Ironman, just what everybody
Mm.
says, right? And so I got online, and I'll never forget this. I'm online. I'm getting so frustrated because they're all sold out, and I wasn't like part of a community at the time. I was just doing this shit on my own, So I, yeah, I asked a friend of mine. I was like, I can't get into this Ironman thing. Like, how does this happen? He goes, dude, they sell out in minutes. And then he said, you have to volunteer for one, and then the volunteers. I don't know how it is now, but at the time, the volunteers would get to sign up the very next day before it went online, and everybody could just swamp it and sell it out,
Okay.
right? So I'm like, well, I don't want to wait a year. So he says, but there's at the time there were some races called challenge races where it was the same distance, but they just weren't logo Ironman races. And I found one called Silverman. I did Silverman in 2010. And if you want to look it up, take a look at Silverman 2010. So I looked it up online. I wasn't even thinking. I was like, it's not sold out. I signed up right away. It was like $600 or $700. It wasn't
Yeah,
not
they're not
cheap,
cheap for sure.
but I was like, I have to do this. Like, I want to do this. So I sign up, and Amy was my girlfriend at the time, and I said, I think I'm going to hire somebody to like write a program because I don't quite know, like, you don't know what's beyond that 70.1, whatever,
Sure.
and you're going to go 140 now, so it's like double, and so whatever. So I hire a guy. His name's Ron, and Ron, we sit down, we have coffee, and he says, "So what race did you sign up for?" I was like, "Oh, Silverman in Henderson." And he got this look on his face, and he's like, "We've only got," he's like, "We've only got 5 months." I'm like, "Yeah, 5 months." He goes, "Do you even know what race that is?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Okay." He goes, "Look it up." It was at the time, it was the hardest full distance triathlon in North America.
Surprised me,
It
man.
was even
Yeah.
harder than the one they have in Utah, like St. Croix or whatever, Saint something, Saint, I can't remember. But there was one in Utah, and it wasn't as tough as this one. There were so many DNFs, which is, for those of you that don't do triathlons, did not finish. It was, the field was like one professional. One professional did the race because they all know better, right? They probably paid the guy a ton of money to show up, but I spent, gosh, man, almost 7.5 hours on that bike that day. 112 miles, just up and down hills. I didn't know Henderson was so damn hilly, dude. It was just like up and down, up and down. So an average triathlon, if you did a triathlon here in Arizona, like, in the basin, you're probably going to climb about, I don't know, not a whole lot, maybe 4,000 feet total,
Well, sure.
of climbing up and down. That was 12,000 feet of climbing. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So Ron and I came up with a scheme. We're like, okay, so we're not going to get your heart rate above 165 beats per minute. That's going to be our threshold. So I'm so frustrated on this bike because you're going up this hill, 6%, whatever it was, and people are just flying by me. And I'm just so competitive. I'm like, God, I want to just get out of the saddle and chase these guys. He was dead. He was dead on with his strategy. I got to the run, and I'm just smoking people on the run. They're just walking like zombies because they went so hard on the bike.
Yeah.
They had nothing left. And, of course, I'm not so confident that I'm like, I got a marathon, you know what I mean? Like, no problem. But I was like, I remember at the athletes meeting, they said there's going to be an aid station every mile on the run. So I said, okay, I've got 26 races to run. They're all a mile long. And I'm going to decide if I'm going to continue at every aid station. So I would run, and the aid stations are pretty long. You've
Yeah.
seen those, like they're pretty long. Um, and I would grab a cup of water at the beginning. I'd walk the length of the tables. I'd finish my water, throw it, and I'd take off running. So that length of the length of maybe 3 or 4 tables, but those 4 tables, I'm deciding, do I want to keep going? If the answer is yes, I trot on, and that's how I finished that race. But it took, gosh, I don't even remember what my time was, but it took forever, dude. It was a long freaking day. And there was one point, I'm sorry, I keep rambling, but
You're good.
there was one point in the race where, the run is hilly as hell too, right? So I remember it was a two lapper, kind
Okay.
of kind of run. So 13.1, whatever it is. So I'm going around the second lap, and I'm just I can hear my footsteps, and it's dark out, and I'm going up this hill, and at the top of the hill is a street light. And it's an old school street light that shut, when they would shut off when they get hot. So the street light is like kind of flickering, and I get to the top, and it just gets dead, just dark, just like I can't see. And I'm like, okay, I'm still standing. I thought I passed out. So because I was just a little loopy. And then the first time you go around the loop, you pass the start finish line, and then you just got to go around the chute, and then you keep going. The second time you go through the chute. So I'm running, I'm going to go through the chute. I'm like, I can't believe I'm finishing this thing. This is awesome. And I hear footsteps behind me, like really, this guy's motoring behind me. So I kind of, I don't really slow down, but I look over my shoulder. I'm like, hey man, if you want to go by me, you hit it, and you get your day in the sun, and I'll just follow in after. The guy goes, I'm on my first lap. I'm like, oh, you poor bastard. Because I just knew what was waiting for him on the second lap. It's just, there's long stretches where you're just alone,
Yeah.
and it's mentally, it's tough. And I think that 4 hours on that treadmill prepared me for that tough course and being alone for so long.
Well, you said something else in there too, about how you listen to your coach, right? He said, don't let your heart rate go
Hmm.
above 165. And then you're, honking up
Yeah.
these hills and people passing you, and you're just having to back that down. Like, I got to trust him, and I got to trust him. Back to the original thing you
Yep.
said, in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. And listen to that.
10,000 hours is a steep mountain to climb to become a master, especially when the task at hand puts a relentless demand on your body. There is nothing casual about this sport. It's all in, all effort, all focus. It takes a lot from you, but the reward is unmatched. Mastery of oneself, an acute understanding of your weaknesses with an explosive sense of your strengths. Being able to complete the climb to mastery requires the proper nutrition. This is why it's important to take in a potent blend of electrolytes that is in tune with your output and brings strength to your goals. This potent blend is only found in Salt Electrolytes. Salt targets your depleted electrolyte levels with a boost of hydration and health. It gives your body the baseline recovery it needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And man, he asked me to write him a review after the race. Dude, I just rambled. He was right. He was right about everything. The nutrition piece, we got pretty scientific with it because at the time, you know how it is, like he was trying to get a little deeper into the science of personal training. So he was buying like VO2 max
Yeah.
readers. He was getting all of these things. And he's like, hey, can we try this? I'm like, hell yeah, dude. I mean, he was just doing it because he wanted to, learn. And so we got pretty scientific on how many calories I needed, how much water to drink, how much, goo packs to eat, stuff. We got pretty dialed in with that. So that was really cool.
That's an interesting thing, because the longest triathlon I've done is an Olympic, right? And
Hmm.
I did exactly the opposite. I got out there on the bicycle, man. I was feeling like a king. I was flying, just feeling great. I was feeling so good,
Yeah.
I forgot nutrition, and I didn't eat. I barely drank
Oh
anything,
no.
and it was a for me. I'm slow. You're probably faster than this, but my goal was 3 hours to finish that Olympic distance, right? And
It's great.
yeah, I get
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
bike and I stick it in the stands, and then I even forgot my water bottle that had some. It's kind of like goo, like a gel that was mixed with water. Give me
Yeah.
some calories at least and
Yeah.
some hydration. Forgot it, left it in the bike. Took off for the 10K run. I got 1 mile in and I crashed so
Oh,
hard that
no.
it was barely a walk for the rest of the last 5 miles. And I finished and I
Yeah,
finished at
yeah,
3 hours and 6 minutes or something. And I was, it kind of guts you when it's like that close in that length of time. It's like 6 minutes and I could have made
yeah,
that up if I would have just drank or eaten a granola
yeah,
bar, man. That would have probably made the difference, right?
yeah, yeah. The that particular and Silverman, um, it was it was the bike course is 112 miles, and the hardest two climbs were after mile 90. The two toughest. So it was my biggest fear was to get swept up. You know what I mean? They got a sweep
Yep.
car. If you're too slow, they get you off the road. They pick you up. You don't get to finish. So I just that's what really drove me. I'll tell you what. So this is before a lot of the technology we have today. It's 2010, right? A long time ago. But at the time, we're already using the chips in the shoes, right? So you could, if you go
Yep.
through a certain point, it reads. So you actually finished the race and you can't cheat. But they had a website where you could put people's phone numbers in and they could track you on the course. So when you cross a certain point, it would let them know. I remember I got into the swimmers pool, right? The just waiting to start, and I'm getting emotional. I always did because like I would think like it's over. Like I know I'm going to finish, so all of this work is over. I would really get emotional. And then the second thing I thought was like, oh my God, if I don't finish, everybody's going to know,
Exact opposites of the spectrum,
So
right?
that drove me too. Yeah, that drove me too. So I'll never forget this. We were riding down and they got a guy with flags. He's kind of pointing you in the direction where he had to turn, and we're getting off the main road and we're going on, just imagine like a 2-lane quad trail. Okay. It's paved, but it's in a park, right? And that's what's taking us back to Henderson. We're going around this road and going to Henderson. So it's not like an average highway incline where they're like maybe 6-7% max. I don't know what this was, but there were people pushing their bikes up this hill. I could read. Didn't want to get off my bike, but I'm off the saddle and I'm really going one pedal at a time, and I could read the lettering on the side of my wheel. That's how slow I
Yeah.
was going. Like I was barely keeping myself upright. So that is just so cruel that they did that to us. After mile 90, those were the two hardest climbs of the day, and there were like real athletes pushing their bikes up that hill. It was
Yeah. So
wild.
you're
It was
you're
wild.
7 hours into this thing before you hit that point.
Bro, yeah,
Holy
it's a
crap.
long day, and then yeah, but dude, no regrets. I really cherish that experience. I don't know that I have another one of those in me,
Hmm.
you know, but I'm glad I did it.
That's impressive, man. I think those are kind of bucket list things, right?
Yeah.
Not very many people have the Ironman experience, right?
No, yeah, it's tough. I actually did volunteer at an Ironman and didn't sign up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the following Ironman, I volunteered. I didn't need it anymore. You know what I mean? Like I was good, but I just wanted to be like the what really makes it possible for people like me, just the average Joe, hobbyist athlete, to finish those kind of races are the
Yeah.
volunteers. Man, they did so much work, dude. They make sure like your halfway bag is there. They make sure like you're going into transition and you're so used to hanging up your own bike and grabbing your shoes. Like there's somebody there to take your bike. I was pulling on my bike when this lady's trying to take my bike. She's like, "No, sir, I'll take care of this for you." I'm like, "Oh shit, that's
You're here
right."
to help me and not
So
trying to steal my bike.
yeah, they take care of you. They take care of the bikes. The transition area is kept super clean. That you couldn't ask for more stuff at the aid stations. Like you name it, and if you even uttered the sound "I need," you got it. And so I wanted to be that person for somebody finishing, Ironman Arizona. And I feel like I was, man. I feel like we worked really hard, and I think we did help a few people finish that race.
Yeah, I think the volunteers are awesome, man. When you're in those things and you're hurting, right? It's late in the race and you're Nothing feels good, you know, you're just tight everywhere and tired
Yep.
and you know, one of those aid station people hand you something and just says you're doing great. That's all it takes, man. Sometimes it's like that
Yep.
that just gave me 3 more miles.
That's
That
it. Yeah.
encouragement,
That's
you know.
it. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is. I did one with, I did it was an Oli with Amy, and they were actually like I ran the run course twice, once for me to finish, and then I found her and I ran with her,
Nice.
and they were literally packing the place up behind her, but they wouldn't let her not finish. It was so cool. Like those volunteers were so cool. They're like, they'd leave some stuff for her, but they're packing up, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So she has something to grab, and that I get emotional thinking about that because that was really cool of them because she really wanted to finish.
That's that is cool, man. I ran with a kid one time. He was just a young man. He's 12 or 13 years old. He was quite overweight, but 10K was his goal for the year. And his mom came to me. She knew I was a
Nice.
runner, and she says, "Hey, can you kind of coach him through this?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we can." And so he and I would go on these runs on the weekends, the training runs, right? And he did so good on these training runs. But man, we got to the race, and I'm not sure what happened. If it must have just been the way he ate or didn't eat or something. But he crashed about a mile and
Mm,
a half into
yeah.
this 10K and walked.
Oh
He
no.
plotted. He didn't even walk. It
Oh,
was
poor
plotted
kid.
for the other,
Yeah.
4.5 miles. And I felt so bad for him, but it was the same thing, man. We were last place, went through the finish line very last, and they waited. They saved some pancakes for him, and they kind of they took care of us at the end.
Oh,
And
so cool.
I figured we were going to get there, and all the
That's really
breakfast was going to
cool.
be gone, but they saved some. It was neat. It's a cool experience.
No, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, it happens, man. It happens. You never know. Like there were some rides where I felt like, what am I doing here? I'm not even a real athlete. Like these guys are all better than me.
yeah,
And there were some times when I'm up front going, I am the strongest rider in this group right now. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So it just happens.
No, it's like any sport. I was shocked at times on how fast other people could be in different events. Like I swim really good. I'm a fast swimmer, but
Mm,
I'm slow as tar on the
mm,
bike. In comparison. Now I'm fairly average on the
right.
bike, but it's fairly average versus a pro it's a huge difference, right? Um, I want to talk about kind of what took you from triathlon. Now you've kind of made it to a certain level of fitness, which is pretty high level fitness to be able to do that. Um, and then somewhere in there, jujitsu comes into the picture. Tell me that story.
Well, there's a little bit of a gap. There's about a 2.5 year gap where I got very, very driven in my job. And I just wanted to, I don't know, I just wanted to provide for, Amy was still my girlfriend at the time. And, we were living together. And I got really big and fat because getting really big and fat was so much fun, dude. Nachos and beer. Oh, fantastic. So Amy was going through nursing school and we had 5 kids in the house. We were blended family. I had 3, she had 2. And, my job was to take care of the fam and the kids. And, she had to go to school at night. And she did a great job too. I mean, she took care of us really well, but it was tough, man. I guess her superpower is her ability to retain information. It's amazing, dude. It's amazing how much information she can retain. So I'm not going to say nursing school was easy, but it was she was built for it, right?
That's cool.
Um, so yeah, yeah. So while she was going through nursing school, we made friends with a couple that was going through school with her, and Kevin Bunyan. Shout out to Kevin, Gracie, Arizona, great dude. Um, he was a blue belt, and all he talked about was jujitsu. So we would go to dinner, jujitsu. We'd go to ball games, jujitsu. And I'm sitting there like, if I got to listen to one more jujitsu story, I might kill Kevin. You know what I mean? I might put an axe through his head. And but because he talked about it so much, man, when Amy graduated nursing school and I wanted to get back in shape, it prompted me to Google, like jujitsu in Arizona. And that's how or jujitsu Mesa, Arizona. And that's how I found my instructor's place. And dude, I'm telling you, like my buddy Ruben, he puts it this way. He's like, there are people that just know they're lifers, and there's people that just fight to be lifers. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like you either just you're all in, or man, you just push yourself and you get yourself through the door, and it's kind of trudgingly, but you're a lifer. I was a lifer day one, dude. Like I told Amy, I was like, I don't want to do anything else. This is all I want to do. And I don't know how we're still married, but we're still married because I was showing up. People should talk about, if you want to get good at jiu-jitsu, show up 3 times a week. I was showing up 3 times a
Yeah.
day. I would go to the morning class and I do 2 evening classes every single day. And then I do open mats on the weekends. Yeah. Yeah. So I was to say I was all in is an understatement. I was all in. I loved it from the first day.
Funny man, that's a familiar story right there. That's yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right, man. I spent last, what, 7 years there. Most
Hmm.
days, yeah, I'd get 4 hours a day training, or not most days, but a few days a week, I'd get 4 hours a day, and
No, that's
on the
good.
mats,
Yeah.
man.
No, it just, gosh, man, it's just, I went there. I went to Paul Nava's place, Aries, Arizona. Awesome, awesome place. Changed my life. Um, I went there just to get in shape, dude. That's all I was about. And it was a very competitive team at the time. We had a couple guys that won pans, like at a lower level, at white belt, blue belt, but they had won pans. So we had a pretty competitive group, and open mats were just like a brawl. It was awesome. Like back in the day, it was so cool. But so there's a tournament coming up, and it's a local tournament, and I'm not competing. I'm like 3 months in, something like that. I'm the new guy. But I told Amy, I was like, hey, do you mind if I just go and see what's up with this stuff, And she's like, yeah, sure. So I brought, like, I had my little iPad, I had a book, I had my earbuds in, I'm thinking I'm just gonna sit in the stands and just watch. And there was a guy named Ross. He doesn't train with us anymore, but he was a purple belt at the time. And I'm sitting up in the stands, and Ross is like waving me down. He's one of our teammates, and he's like, "We're over here," and I'm like, "What's this we stuff?" You know what I mean? Like I didn't know it was like a we thing, but yeah, I ended up sitting with the team. Spent the whole day with them. We went out to a little bar called Bogies in Tempe after, took over the whole place, and I was like, this is all right, man. And I got the bug, dude. I wanted to compete. So I started competing way too early, like about 6 months in. I started competing, got the crap kicked out of me. But
Yeah.
you're a white belt, still overweight. I actually got myself to, I think I was super heavy. So I started out 240 pounds when I walked through the door, and I got myself to super heavy in 6 months.
Dude.
So what is that? 220, I
Hmm.
guess, 220. And then I worked my way down to what do they call it? Middle heavy or light heavy, whatever is 195, and then middleweight. And I've gotten down as low as the lightweight, but now I just do middleweight. But yeah, dude, so it's like, 60 pounds, something like
Yeah.
that. I lost just getting myself ready for tournaments. And I was hooked, dude. You know, if there was a tournament, I was doing it. You know what I mean? I wanted to just compete, and I fell in love with doing like IBJJF, not because the IBJJF is so great, but because like the team, like we're going to, San Jose, we're going to Vegas, we're going to, Orange County, we're going to LA, and it's so much fun, dude. I had so much fun competing. I still do.
How old
I
were
still
you when you
do. But
started? I know you
yeah, that
told
was
me sometime.
I was, I was 40.
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
40
yeah.
years old.
So we were
Yeah, I
similar in
was
that
40
regard
years
too,
old.
because I
And
was 38, right? We were in that zone.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, people, I'm 53 now, and people ask me, like, how do you keep yourself going? And, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, man, like, I don't let people project their, I don't, can I
Go
cuss?
ahead.
Can I say
Go
one
ahead.
bad word? I don't let people project their bullshit on me. Like, oh, I'm too old for this, or, oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't do that anymore. You know what? Let's find out, dude. Like, it's
Yeah.
easy to sit on the side of the mat and say you can't. And then there's another thing to try and figure out, oh, wait, maybe I still got something in the tank, right? I got a great compliment. today from a young guy. He's like, man, I want to do this at your age. And I was like, I want to do this at 80, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Like, think bigger, homie. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, uh, but yeah, so I don't know. I'm sorry, I got off track there. But yeah, I mean, so when I started competing, I did the first tournament I ever did. I got smoked. Two different rounds by guys that were about to get their blue belt, and I was just a rag doll, dude. They just beat the crap. I think there's a video of it somewhere. It's unwatchable. Like I'm just getting. I didn't know what an Ezekiel choke was,
Oh, you
but it
found
turns
out.
out I was in one for a good 4 minutes without passing out. So my neck hurt for like a good month. What else? I got smashed by the second guy. And then the second tournament I did, it was one and out, one and done. I got killed. And I told Paul, I was like, I'm not going to lose anymore. I don't want to lose anymore. And Paul's like, okay, like, good luck with that. And I went like a year and a half without losing a single tournament, without losing a single match. And I competed a lot. I competed a lot at blue belt. At blue belt, I was doing 10 to 13 tournaments a year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Purple belt was about the same. And yeah, it was anyway, I love it, man. It keeps me going.
It's funny you said you were in a white belt Ezekiel choke for 4 minutes. The reason you lasted for 4 minutes because it was a white belt Ezekiel choke, but half the time,
The white belt.
half the time that
Yeah,
means it was
yeah. It
probably
was a
on your
it was a
trachea trying
choke.
to cave in your neck, right?
Yeah. Dude, I didn't know what was happening. All I know is like, okay, well, I'm not going to sleep and it hurts, but I'm okay. So yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah, it's funny for the
Yeah.
audience who's not in the jiu-jitsu world. This Ezekiel choke, you wrap your arm around the back of a guy's neck and you take your forearm and you press it into his across his throat, right?
Yeah.
And if it's done
Yeah.
incorrectly, it's on your trachea. If it's done correctly, it'll be on your carotids. But yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine like you don't survive it if it was on your carotid. You can only survive it if it's on your trachea, but that's the
No.
one that hurts.
That's when it hurts like hell. Yeah, it hurts like hell. And I've had a few injuries. The first significant injury I ever had was I tore my groin pretty bad. It was like a pop, pop,
Oh
pop
no.
on the groin. And it was white belt, like maybe three stripe white belt, something like that. At the Vegas Open when they had the Vegas Open. It was in the semifinal, and I tear my groin. And this is how well my wife knows me. This is how like she gets me like no other. Um, I beat the guy in the semifinal, and back in the day, there was the gosh, man, it was like the Las Vegas Sports Center or Athletic Center or something. Just imagine like a basketball
Hmm.
court that's 4 feet lower than the stands, right where you sit. So there's a platform basically that so you're kind of looking up at people like that are on the rails. And I come out of the bullpen and I'm standing waiting for my turn to go into the final. And I'm talking to Amy, she's standing above me, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like my groin really hurts. I think I screwed it up really bad. She says to me, she goes, if you don't do it, you're going to be unbearable. Just go do it. I was like, all right. And I went in, I won. She was right. I would have been so upset with myself had I not at least tried. But yeah, I won that match. It was not exciting, but after that, I wasn't off the mats for too long. I taped it up and kept going. But yeah, I've had that. I've had some minor, injuries to my knees, some meniscus surgeries, a partially torn LCL, and then just the regular bumps and bruises, all the sprains and stuff on fingers and wrists
Things,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. But nothing too bad. Yeah,
Yeah, I always
yeah.
joke with people. I was like, man,
But
I've been
yeah,
sore. Something's been tweaked for the last 12 years, It's like,
yeah.
haven't
Hmm.
had any real serious injuries, but I'm just, you're always sore. But
Yeah, always.
so are my sedentary
Yeah,
buddies too.
yeah,
They're always sore. So there's that.
yeah. That's very true, man. That's very true. And yeah, if there's somebody that listens to the show that is even considering doing it, I don't care how old you are, you can get some jujitsu in, man. You can do something. You know what I mean? And it'll pay off. Like I said, it. it changed the course of my life. I quit my corporate job to do my academy full time, and no regrets, man.
Let's talk about that. I've got it on my list, so that's just one thing I really want to ask you about. But first,
Okay.
talk about real quick, just you started at 40. You competed
Yeah.
through those years, and you said, up through purple belt, anyways, you were competing a lot. You didn't go past that. I mean,
Mm.
maybe you still competed a lot at brown and black, but your,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you
Yeah.
said, doesn't matter how
Yeah.
old you are, that there, you can get some jujitsu in. It's a different version though, isn't it? It's not quite the same as a 20-year-old's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that, my body is I'm not saying it can't do. It doesn't want to, and I have to force it. Um and I don't want to get to that point, right? There's things that I could probably do better. Like I had a buddy of mine on my podcast, this guy Josh. Shout out to Yoga Machine. He has a video on BJJ Fanatics, sorry, stretching, like fit. I think it calls it like flexible over 50 or something like that. And he was just telling me like, you don't have to be flexible to do yoga. you know
Yeah.
it helps to be warmed up, to do it, but you don't have to be flexible. So that kind of changed my perspective on it, and I think I'm going to give it a try. But there's things I could have been better to my body when I was younger, but I wasn't. So that's out of the picture. But moving forward, I can. There's things like, oh, gosh, man, to say it's different is really difficult for me because I was never a 20-year-old doing jujitsu. I don't know what that's like. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I just never was. I was old. I was always older. So I only know what I know. But yeah, I mean, me compared to, some of like, some of my students, like a young guy, Justin, he's just a super athlete. And, you know, in my 20s, I probably could keep up with him. You know what I mean? But now it's like, imagine being like an older linebacker in football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't chase down runners, but you can cover that hole because you know where it's coming
Right.
from, right? You can kind of see things coming, and that's what keeps me keeps us, active and how did somebody put it?
Yeah.
Effective, effective on the mat. Like we're not playing catch up because we know what's coming. Like we can see it coming. So yeah, so it's really difficult for me to say like it's a different type of jiu-jitsu, and it is. You're right about that, but I have no frame of reference
It's the
for
only type you know.
before
Yeah.
40. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So damn it, we're right. We are
Well, we're
right.
still doing it, and we're on. I'll be 50 this year, and you said you're 53, and we're still doing it. So there
Yeah,
you go.
53.
And
Yeah,
I'll
man.
be willing to bet
Absolutely.
there's a lot of 20-year-olds you can choke out, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Take that, 20-year-olds.
For
For now.
now, for now, like
Yeah.
we got a kid, we've got a kid named Ben. He's 15 years old, and he was a big kid. So at 13, he started coming to the adult class, and we're ragdolling him. You know what I mean? Like we're just messing with him. Now he's like putting up a real fight. You know what I mean? So let's just say it's just a matter of time before Ben either, hopefully he lets go. That's all I'm saying when I chat.
My 18-year-old son just this previous week to the date we're recording this submitted me for real for the first time he ever has. And he's
Yeah, that's a good
it
day,
was a
man.
great day, and I'm sitting there like caught in an arm bar, and he transitioned great from a triangle to an arm bar and rolled me over, and I'm like, you little sucker, man. But he got it. He got it legit, and I had to
I
just give
love
him a
it.
big hug and
Yeah,
say, man, that was the first one that I could not stop. You know,
that's so
it was
cool.
so
Yeah,
rad.
good for him. Good for you too, man. That means you're training them right. If they can get their instructor,
I
they
got
can
to
get
quit showing
anybody.
him crap though, because now he's bigger than I am. So there's that too.
I know, dude. I know. Yeah, those days, the days of beating them up are over.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I
I
keep
hear you.
telling him like it's gonna be, that was your first time, but you'll get another one here soon, and then you'll get another one sooner than that. And then that the
Yeah.
time between him catching dad's gonna get closer and closer, right?
Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Can I add something to being, our
Hmm.
age and staying on the mat? Um and I'm not trying to talk you up, but your product, your salt electrolytes is so freaking good, dude.
Thanks, man.
Like you sent me a sample. You sent me some samples, and I was hooked. And full disclosure, you are a supporter of my podcast. You're a sponsor of my podcast, and I love that. But like I do a salt packet in the morning, right, with my breakfast, and then I do a salt packet in the afternoon. Basically, like I'll put it in my water, and then I don't let it. I don't drain the water. I don't drink it all. I just keep refilling it, so I have that
Yeah.
flavor. But I do two. I do two salt packets a day. Sometimes I'll do three. It is Arizona, so if I'm outside, I'll do three. But I'm telling you, man, like I can feel a significant difference when I'm taking them consistently than when I don't.
Hey, has all that talk about salty electrolytes made you wonder what all the fuss is about? Have you thought that maybe one day you'd like to try that stuff? Well, today's your lucky day because Salty Electrolytes is offering free samples to listeners of this podcast who have not yet tried this amazing electrolyte supplement. All you have to do is head on over to goearnyoursalt.com and use the code PODSAMPLE at checkout to receive your free sample kit. There will also be a link in the description of this podcast. And now, let's get back to the show. Interesting, man, because I've been I've always kind of known to take them in the morning, but I don't always do it, and I have been
You gotta
lately
do it.
first thing in
Yeah.
the morning. And man, it lights me up, and it's fun to say,
Yeah.
and again, it's my product, so obviously I'm biased, but I notice it. I do feel it. I'm like, gosh, why don't I do this every day?
Yeah.
But
You got
I,
to, man. You
I
got to.
appreciate the
Yeah.
compliments, man. Listen,
Yeah, of course.
because what you're saying about this is again, it's like you said, you don't really have a frame of reference, what it was like to do jiu-jitsu as a 20-year-old. And I wrestled as a kid, so I kind of have some of that frame of reference. And I know it's just a lot less
Yep.
explosive, right? And I think one of the things
Yeah.
that, older athletes, especially if you're going to start any sport, man, they want to start triathlon, you start running, ease into that thing, man. Ease into it. Take your
Yeah.
time. You mentioned earlier, climbing that hill on your bike, keeping your heart rate under 165. It's like monitor that stuff, see where you
Mhm.
perform best, and take time off to recover, and let those legs relax, and whatever it happens to be, there's a way to do
Yeah.
it, and do it in such a
Yeah.
way. I'm a proponent, I guess, and you reflect on this with me here a little bit and tell me your opinion, but you don't want to do something you're starting so you don't want to dive in so deep that you are hurt and discouraged. You want to do it at a pace where where you can be consistent, right? And
Yeah.
for me, I know that would be, if I was giving advice, that would be something I would tell people in any athletic endeavor they're
Yeah.
new to.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Like you and I did it wrong and we got away
Yeah,
with it. It's flat out. It's just the truth. We
yeah,
did it wrong and we got away with it. How many people did you see come and go due to injuries or just burnout, whatever that we're training with
thousands.
us, right? We all have that fear of missing out, right? That fear, that FOMO, fear of missing out. And you show up to every open mat, you go to every tournament, you go to every comp class, you go to every class you can. We just got away with it, dude. Like had I known truly, like I kind of knew, but I really didn't listen to my inner voice that this is a marathon and it doesn't matter what age you start at. You're not going to catch up to anybody.
Right,
That's just the way it is. You're going to learn at your pace. But if you don't take care of your body, you will not see a finish line of any sort.
right,
Right. Not that there is a finish line, but like if you're trying to, do a 2.5 month workup to a tournament, you're not going to see that tournament healthy. That's just the way
right.
it is
Yeah,
because you're pushing your body beyond its limit. And bro, at 40, we got limits, man. We got to listen to our body. And yeah, I mean, especially now, like I'm getting ready for PANS, and I wrote out my training plan weekly, and I'm not deviating from that plan. There's not gonna if I'm in a class that I'm teaching, and somebody goes, "Coach, are you rolling today?" Nope, not rolling today.
that's hard to say, man.
What? It's hard, dude. It's
That's
really
hard to
hard
say.
because you want to be a body. We want to help them get better, but the reality is like I'm still competing and I got to take care of my body too. And then I always ask the question, where were you at 6 a.m.? Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I was there rolling.
Yeah, that's a funny thing
But
because I'll do that. I teach the day classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and oftentimes I'm there in the evenings also. And then these young
mhm,
guys will be like, "Man, I want to get around in with you," and I'm like, "Dude, I was here this morning, bro. I'm just supervising
Yeah.
tonight. We're done tonight.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And then, I've got some weightlifting days in there too. So that plays into it. I got to have my day off, that type of thing. So it's hard. Yeah, it's not hard because I love it. It's hard because I have to say no to that passion
Yeah.
sometimes.
Man, that's good. I want to write that down because that's just that's some good wisdom there. Oh,
Thank you.
um, talk about this, man. So you said what year did you quit your job and went into your school or started your school?
It was November 1st of 2023. Um, can I tell you the story real quick?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask
So,
you next because I want to know how that
yeah.
looked.
S- s- So let's start from the very beginning, okay? So I'll try to make it as quick as I can. I kind of ramble, so cut me off if you need
Go,
to.
man. We're here for you.
I'm sitting in traffic, right on. I'm sitting in traffic in my corporate job. I'm on my way to a meeting that I don't want to go to a client that is just not going to spend money. I know I'm spinning my wheels. I'm gridlocked, gridlocked. Like this is an 8-lane freaking highway, and then we're not moving. Okay, it was a trans, and I hadn't even gotten on that highway yet. It was a transition from the 60 to the I-10 going towards Phoenix, and I'm just sitting in traffic, and it's gosh, man, I want to say it was like January of 2020. And I call a buddy of mine that we had talked about, buying into a gym or, doing stuff like that. And I called him, I was like, hey, you want to just open an academy? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. So my former partner who I bought out, his name's Chris. Great dude. He opened another academy. They're doing really well. Um, But Chris and I decided that we're going to open an academy, and he was a stay-at-home dad, so he was going to run the place during the day. I would teach in the mornings and the evenings, and yeah, we would kind of do our thing. So we opened up in we incorporated in February, I believe, of 2020, and then the world shut
Yeah.
down, and we're like, do we do like online stuff because we're going like we're doing this, you know what I mean? And like, what do we do? And I actually had a conversation with a really good friend of mine, mentor, just an amazing guy. And I was asking, I was like, what do you think? And he says, buddy, he goes, if you open a gym tomorrow, I would sign up with you tomorrow. He goes, but I need a place to roll. He goes, why don't you find a place that's like month to month and you rent the place out, you build your clientele until you get the spot that you want, and you move forward that way. And we did, and it worked out like crazy because we didn't do brick and mortar until August of 2020. And by then people were really tired of being told what to do,
Yeah.
and the government was writing checks, right? They were writing checks, so these people are staying home, they got nothing going on, and they got money. So we outgrew the place in 3 months.
So what was this place like? Can
Luckily,
you tell me about
we
that?
had,
Because I'm really interested in that.
yeah, 1,500 square feet, okay, in a little shopping center, like a nothing shopping center. Most of the spots in that shopping center were empty. So they were eager to get people in there because it was COVID and no one was renting property, nobody's renting commercial
Right.
space. So, um, so they were eager to get people in, and we negotiated a month to month deal, and they were cool with it. So we fixed the place up. We painted it. We changed out all the lights, and man, we made it look really nice. And I remember we put down the floor and we measured out where the mats were going to go because they had been ordered, but they weren't in. And a week before we opened, we laid down the flooring, got the bathroom all set up, and we're standing there in this space with no mats, but it's ready to go. And the mats were going to show up the following Friday. This was actually Saturday, the week before we opened. And we get a call from FedEx. And the guy's like, hey, where do you want your delivery?
Oh, it was
And
early,
we're
huh?
like, what delivery? Yeah, we just got to tool around on our mats for a week before we opened. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was like friends, open mats. You know what I mean? Like every day,
Nice.
just, and it was ours. It was ours, man. It was so freaking cool. And Yeah, we had our grand opening. Got in a little trouble, but we had our grand opening. People didn't like the fact that we had a bunch of people in there. But yeah, so we got 3 months later. 3 months later, we had so many people in that small space that we had to do like A group and B group.
Okay.
It was like just chaos. And we outgrew it in no time. And then luckily we had found another spot that we were negotiating a long-term lease that we're in that spot now. And we just asked the guys like, hey, can we just move in? You know, we'll start paying you. And well, they were going to renovate and tear down a wall, build showers and all that stuff. But like, we need to be in there. And the guy's like, cool, do it. So we're trying to figure out how they were going to build the showers and how they were going to do the renovations while we were in business. And finally, we didn't do the showers, thank
Mm.
goodness. But
Why do you say
we
that?
got the place. Dude, it's hard enough getting people out of there now. People just love being in there. Imagine if we had a shower, there'd be a line for the showers. I'd never get any work done.
Funny, we
Um,
have showers, so I
because
know
people
exactly
think
what you're
my
talking
job is
about.
jujitsu, right? Yeah, yeah. The job is my business. Jujitsu is the fun part of
Yeah.
the business, right? Um, and I'll never complain because I have the best job in the world, but it's work. It's a fun job, but it is a job, right? So but people just love hanging out, and if you give them an opportunity to, they will. They just will, and I want to usher them out so I can clean and get ready for the next stuff or get on a call or do whatever. Um but yeah, so I was doing my corporate job, and finally we got to a point where we had gotten so big that it required more and more and more of my attention. So I was half-assing two things.
Yeah.
So, talked to my wife, got it. We got in a position where we can make this transition, from my job to the academy. And I switched to a different company. And I told Amy, I said, I'm going to do 1 year at this company, and then I'm going to do the academy full time. So it was November 1st of 21. I believe it's 21. 21. Yeah, it's 21. And I start my first day, right? Selling, doing my thing. November 21st of 22, I'm sorry, November 1st of 22, I walk in to quit. And like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, I'm about to walk away from a great salary plus commission, making, really good money. And I'm going to do this jujitsu thing full time. And the whole time, it wasn't like I didn't believe in myself. I was so concerned about what everybody's going to think because you got to be nuts, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're 48 years old. You're going to go into this business that is for, you know, kids basically, right? For younger people, and you're going to quit this job that you work so hard to build, this career that you work so hard to build. But I was like, no, I promised myself this is what I was going to do. I'm going to do it. So I go to my boss's office and I knock and no answer. And oh, crap. So this is not going like I expected. So I went to the bathroom and I'm just kind of washing my hands. And my boss's boss, the VP of building services, walked in, this guy named Tim. Great guy, great guy. And I said, hey, Tim, where's Brian today? And he goes, Brian prefers to work at home when he's getting ready for a big sales meeting, and you guys have your sales meeting next week. I'm like, oh, great. You got a minute?
Dude, yeah.
So yeah. So the story in the office was there was an email that went out at 8 a.m. saying congratulations, Alex Martinez, on your first year with the company. And then at noon, there was another email that went out that said Alex Martinez no longer works for the company. So yeah, that was my big goodbye to that company. So anyway, I went
Yeah.
started doing it full time, and you know, it wasn't that my partners and I, like, our relationship really didn't change because I was there all the time now, because they were there during the day and I would be there in the mornings and the evenings, and we would kind of swap out. They would leave, I would come, and it's great. We were at each other's throats from like week three. You know what I mean? It was just like we had such differences of opinion, and it wasn't like I'm a difficult person to work with. So I believe me, trust me, I was a big part of the problem. And finally, we just had a meeting, and they're like, "Why don't you just buy us out?" And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, and I bought them out. They opened another academy, and like I said, they're doing really well. Um, But then I'm drinking through this fire hose because they did all the day-to-day stuff and now they're not there to do that anymore. And I got to
Dude.
learn a lot of this stuff. And it was like, like I said, drinking from a fire hose. And my wife wanted to help me. And I'm trying to explain to her like the anxiety that I have, right? And I remember one time Amy's doing payroll, and our payroll system is like it's better now, but it was like glitchy, you know. And she's getting frustrated. She's getting frustrated. Like, this thing's not working. And I'm like, okay. I said, now take this energy and go teach a class. That's my life day to day,
Yeah.
right? Like I have to like get back in the zone, like, okay, it's time to go teach, you know, whatever. It was quite the experience, man. But then, you know, I got my feet under me, got some processes in place, got a great in-house help. My uh my employee Taylor, she's a good friend. I call her my employee. She's a good friend, but she works for me. She does my front desk. You know, she learned sales, she learned her system, she manages the coaches, she does a lot of the stuff that I just don't have time to do. And now we've evolved to the point where I need to pull some of that responsibility from Taylor because I need her to focus on other things. And I hired a virtual assistant. So the virtual assistant's handling a lot of the tedious stuff, you know,
Yeah.
the emails, all that stuff. And yeah, we're chugging along. I don't even know if I answered your question, brother, because I'm just rambling.
No, it's funny because you're kind of going right down the list of questions I have for you because I did want to have it here like when you started your school, what was it like? And it sounds like, you know,
Yeah.
you kind of grew because of COVID because no one else had a place to roll and
Mhm.
other guys weren't willing to be open
Yeah.
and, you know, buck the system and you
Yeah.
did. And so
Yeah.
you had a clientele fairly quickly and then, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
Yeah. Well, you know, like I will give you know, a lot of credit to um just the people that we surrounded ourselves with. They were amazing. They were just amazing. And you know, it's not so much, yeah, yes, you're right. We did buck the system. And it's not my proudest thing. But at the time I was like, you you can't take this away from me.
right.
You know what I mean? And I tell my students that all the time. Is like one thing that COVID taught me is that this can be taken away from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's injury, whether it's the government telling you can't do it anymore, it can be taken away. That's why like these moments are super precious. And I tell them like, you guys got to enjoy like the moment because this team, the way it sits now, will never be together again, ever. It's going to change tomorrow. This team is going to change tomorrow. Someone's going to move away. 10 people are going to join. 20 people are going to quit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we're going to be a different team next year. You know, of the people that started with me on day one, I mean, they're like we signed like 20 something people before we opened. There might be three people still there.
Yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean? So it's a
actually pretty good for
and
that
people
length of
have come
time.
and gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So and so many people have come and gone, and it, you know, we came up in a time where like if there was a purple belt on the mat, you know, when we were training, we're like, whoa, he's a purple belt. This is awesome. And if there were two black belts on the mat and they were rolling against each other, ain't nobody else rolling. We're
No,
just
they're
watching
watching.
because this
Yeah.
is going to be a barn burner. Yeah, yeah. So now, like I tell my students, like you guys got purple belts, you got brown belts, you got black belts, blue belts, you got all this knowledge on the mat, and you're missing training. Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but it's just a different time, you know? Um, Man, if I had 5, 10 black belts, like my instructor does, like he has a now, it's like nothing, right? There's just 10 black belts on the mat, and you go over there and train.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, if I was a white belt and I had 10 of these guys that could help me, I would be here every day. Like I would be here every single day, and I'd be trying to learn from these guys. But that's just like we're lifers. It's different.
Yeah.
It's a little frustrating sometimes.
No, it's a you know it's a hard world because it demands a lot of your time and it demands a lot of your
Mm,
attention. You know, we always talk about it. It's humiliating at times. Sometimes you just get smashed, man,
yeah,
and you got to contend with that. And if it's not really part of who you are, that I could see that being difficult, man.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
I've
Absolutely,
had very few,
absolutely.
but I have had those days where I'm just like, I don't want to go in there today. It's only happened a few times
Yeah,
over the years to
it's
me,
it
but it does happen.
it does happen, man. It does happen. There just recently I had a day where I just couldn't do anything right. I just there were guys that, I roll with that I tool around with them. And man, a couple of them passed my guard, which is like for people who don't do jujitsu, that's a big deal, dude. That's
Yeah.
such a big deal. And I got smashed a little bit. But you know what? I came in the next day and I picked the same matches, right? I always want those back. And let's just say I did much better.
Yeah. It's funny, man, because that's we talk about that in like a job, right? You'll go there and it's like, well, I had a bad day today. I was kind of off
Mm,
my game. That's real in jujitsu too, man. You'll have those days when you just, like
yeah.
you just said, you can't do anything right. And then there's other days you feel like you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a pretty cool
It's
deal.
it's it's the best feeling and the worst feeling, because like I always tell myself, like, if I'm the best guy in the room, I'm in the wrong room. So it's okay to get beat up, you know. But I also, you've been doing this. We've been doing this long enough that I should know better.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't be making those mistakes, and that's all they are. They're just mistakes. No big deal.
Just mistakes. That's right. And we all make them, man.
Yeah,
You just sleep for
yeah,
a second on a guy.
yeah,
I had a kid catch me in a little ankle lock the other day, and I just didn't think he knew it. So I kind of took a chance. And
yeah,
man, he nailed me
yeah,
quick. And I was like, you little sucker. I didn't know you knew how to do that. So
yeah,
I was hedging my bets, and I mistakenly got caught.
yeah.
um,
That's wild, man. Yeah,
so
that's
funny.
a tough one. Yeah.
So as you said several times, in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. What
Mm.
else makes a good, business owner, coach, leader?
Oh, um, I struggle with this one. Just so you know, because this is like the first thing that comes to mind. Um, when you ask for people's opinions, don't shit on them. And here's what I mean by that. It doesn't matter how many classes you have or how many levels of classes there are. Like, you have the beginner class or, your 101 class, or whatever you want to call it. And then you might have like mixed levels and then an advanced. There's always going to be a knowledge gap between those. And someone's always going to be asking you to fill that gap,
Hmm.
right? I get this a lot with the kids class. Like there's kids that show up 2 days a week. They're getting schooled by these kids that show up 5 days a week. And I'm thinking that's just the way it is. But, I mean, they put in the work. That's kind of what happens. Um, but I always get asked like, well, can't we have like a class that's like between those that kind of bridges that gap? And right. And I'm like, well, I got to think of a way. I'm not saying I'm going to make that happen, right? Because if in order to add a class, you have to subtract one because there's only so many hours in the day. That's just the way it is. But I can't shoot it down in such a way that that person no longer wants to give me any advice because I asked them for their opinion, and now I'm about to destroy their opinion, which I've done several times. And then afterwards, I'm like, okay, you got to do, you know. So I think a good leader um, values the opinion of the I hate to call them subordinates of the team, because if you're a good leader, that means you put a good team together, right? And that team has a lot of knowledge. I've got several black belts that work for me,
Yeah.
right? And when they say things, it's not coming from a, hey, what would be cool? It's coming from a, what I've seen work in the past.
Yeah.
That's got to mean something. And for me to, to shit all over their ideas is basically gonna get them to shut down and not want to give me any more ideas, right? Because we as the owners, I'm not saying leaders now, this is the owner, very different. We're always looking for for ideas to shoot down. And I tell people that all the time. Like, bring me ideas I can shoot down. And but if you shoot them down in such a way that it makes them feel like, I hate to use the word, I hate to use not worthy, but stupid,
Yeah.
right? You make them feel stupid. They're not going to give you any more ideas because they don't want to feel that way. So, and I'm yelling at myself right now because I do that. I shoot it down like, okay, so what class are we going to get rid of if we're going to do that? and they're like, whoa, killer, you asked me for advice, you asked me for a recommendation. So yeah, that's one thing that I struggle with, that I would say, take things, you don't have to take everything for action, but you have to absorb the information a little bit better than I do.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. It's funny because I think that's pretty common with leadership minded people. Because
Hmm.
you do see
Hmm.
sometimes the bigger picture, right? So you see exactly what you were saying. Well, what class are we going to take away in order to fit that in then? And rather than, just take it into account and maybe, add a little, oh, you know, fundamentals class plus, you shoot the whole idea
Right.
down,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's,
But you know what? What's funny? Like, because at the time when that came up, we didn't roll in fundamentals. There was no live sparring in fundamentals.
mhm,
So we would just do some situational stuff, like the technique that we're teaching versus the counter, because I want to keep people healthy and I want to get them in shape so they can go on to the more advanced classes, the classes with more sparring. There's no such thing as advanced, in my opinion. But anyway,
yeah.
um, but these guys, we came up with a compromise. Well, what if we started rolling in the fundamentals classes? Right? Which sounds great. However, you've got lazy blue belts that want to go beat up on white belts. So they skip the more advanced class and they go to the fundies, right? Where they're safe, where they feel safe. They can
Yeah.
feel, I don't want to say superior, but they feel some kind of way that, they're the big dog in the class now. And yeah, that's where my hang up is with those, bridging that
It's
gap.
funny, man,
But
because no matter
got to do it. I
what
get it.
changes you make, they're going to play to that rule set, right? And that's
100%.
what yeah,
100%.
that's
Yeah.
what you found. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Yeah,
Yeah. But it's you know, when 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 I opened the academy, going back to when I opened, I was not prepared for some of the things that are happening now, which they're awesome. But I wasn't like, how should I put this? I wasn't ready to allow myself to feel like we had kind of arrived, because it's always like I'm always searching for that next thing, and I'm so guilty of that. Like I can't enjoy the moment. But there was one day, we have there was a time when the kids got to move up. They're just too big to roll with 5-year olds, and they might be a little undersized, but it's time to bump them up into the adult class. So I have a teens slash adult class that I teach, so the teens can kind of
yeah.
transition, into there. Yeah. So we had, so I have a little warriors that's like 4 years old to about six. 7 to 11 is a youth, and then 12 and up, they move up. I had the very first student that started in Little Warriors join the adults class, or join the
Oh, so
teens
he went
class.
all the way through. Yeah,
Yeah. And that was like, I had to kind of absorb that moment, because like I didn't make a big deal about it until the end of class. We're all high-fiving and stuff. And I'm like, Steven, I said, you were a little warrior. He's like, yeah, blown away, man. Like that was such a big moment for me, as a coach, obviously, but as an owner, I'm like, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing, because like we said, you see so many people come and go.
yeah.
How many people are gonna, and now, like someday, Steven, I don't know, hopefully I'll be putting a black belt on him someday. And he'll be like starting from 4 years old, you know what I mean? Or he was maybe six, it might have been six when he started. But it's gonna be a special day when I do put that black belt on him.
Yeah, it's funny because probably in his mind, this is just what you do. You just come to Little Warriors, and you
Yeah,
next thing you know, you're in an adult class because that's just life to
yeah,
him. But to you, that's a different thing to realize you just raise that kid up
yeah,
all the way. Shoot,
yeah.
man.
It's wild, man. Yeah, I literally have seen him grow up, in the academy. It's fantastic, man.
Uh, I think that is super cool, man. And, and that's oddly where I want to go next. When you're talking about casting that vision for people, because, if we're in that
Mm,
leadership, we're in that coach position, right? And you are, you're trying to get that blue belt all the way to purple belt without quitting. What, what,
yeah.
what advice do you have on that?
For the coaches or for
Or
the
you just
for
casting
the
vision for your team,
student?
man.
For
Yeah.
me, so I look at people, especially my staff, like my coaching staff. I don't look at them for who they are right now. I look at them for who I think they could be 5 years from now. And like if I hire a kids coach and he's green, I know he's not going to be a great kids coach the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And I just got to coach him up, right? And then I kind of give him a longer leash as we go. But in 5 years, he's going to be the best kids coach he ever had, right? And at that time they forget that they were green, right? And now they're, they're awesome, and they kind of, they just kind of forget those things. But those are things that I see, and I take a lot of pride in that, when I have somebody with me that long and they kind of grow into what I think they could be. And it's the same thing with students, man. I tell students all the time, I have a just a speech that I give every single year, and it's about showing up. And I was like, it has nothing to do with showing up in here, because I expect you to do that. Like that's my expectation for you to be here. I said, what about 5 years from now at Thanksgiving? Are you going to show up as an overweight, used to do jujitsu, or are you going to show up as a purple belt and bore the shit out of everybody around you about how awesome it is to be a purple belt in jujitsu?
Yeah.
You can show up one of two ways. It's all up to you, right? You could show up and be like, oh, yeah, I used to do that. And then I started playing pool or whatever the hell you did, right? Pickleball. We're losing people to pickleball. I swear to God, I don't know that one,
That's
man.
real, man. That is a
Anyway,
real
don't get
pain
me
point
started.
for sure.
Yeah, dude, I freaking hate pickleball, dude. The first time I got exposed to pickleball, I was actually playing golf, and I shanked the ball, and it was like by a clubhouse, whatever. And I go out there and I hear this noise, and I'm like in my car going, what the, what is that noise? And then somebody goes, oh, that's the pickleball. That's what the ball sounds like. I'm like, fucking pickleball. So anyway, so we start losing jujitsu people to pickleball, and I'm like disgusted with it. But anyway, where was I? Vision. Yeah. So
That's so
you
awesome.
can show up as a pickleballer, or you can show up as a jujitsu purple belt. It's really like, and the best part about that is you are fully in control of how you're going to show up, right? If you show up to class ready to go, you're hydrated, you're rested, you got a great mindset, you're going to have a great class. You are in full control of all those three things. If you show up at Thanksgiving and you're just still out of shape, you're still smoking, you're still, drinking every night, or if you show up as a purple belt that's like fit as hell and you're just different, you're in control of that too.
Yeah.
That's the best part about this, man. You're in full control of how you're going to show up.
Oh, so that's beautiful, man. Um, Real quick, I know we're an hour and a half into this thing already.
Are we really?
Yeah, can you believe it?
Sweet.
I want to respect your time, but I'm super enjoying the conversation. I can do another hour and a half as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
a bit about your podcast, man, BJJ Foxcast, and again, my Electrolyte company is a sponsor of your podcast. We love what you guys are doing, but I am. This was another startup, right? This was another thing you went into
Mhm.
at a later point in life and had to learn the art form, right? And I'm kind of right in the throes of that here myself. Learn how to talk on a microphone and not use all
Yeah.
these ums and uhs and likes, and I still use way too many, but
Dude, I'm
it's
terrible.
hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you guys decide,
Yeah.
one, to do that, and then two, what to do with it? You're in the jiu-jitsu space, so you had a subject matter, but you also have a very specific flavor
Yeah.
there too. So, business owners, I want to talk to you for a second. Do you have a retail space inside your location? If so, I want you to think about something. Your customers are buying electrolytes. You know that, right? The problem is they're not buying them from you. Well, Salty Electrolytes can help fix that with their wholesale program. They can bring these sales to you in-house so that your customers get the electrolytes they love from the company they love, you. All you have to do is head over to goearnyoursalt.com and scroll to the bottom of the page and click Apply for Wholesale. Do it now before you forget. I know your type, I'm one of you. Once again, that's goearnyoursalt.com. The link is at the bottom of the homepage. There will also be a link in the description on this video. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
Yeah. So the idea started in my backyard. It was had to be like June of 2020. We would sit out there with a whiteboard, like brainstorming the academy stuff, like just logos and t-shirts and you name it. We're just like putting all this stuff on a big whiteboard that we had on wheels. And I said, man, we should do a podcast. Well, podcasting was big because we were all locked down, right? And we would just listen to podcasts. And I was like, we would sit out in my backyard and just drink bourbon and just talk. And we had these great conversations. I'm like, man, we should record these conversations. And it was almost 2 years to the day that we hit record for the first time. So I was in Nashville. My wife and I were in Nashville. My buddy out there was doing a grand opening for his jiu-jitsu school. Um, and we're sitting our last night there, we're at his house, we're having dinner, it's like 6 or 7 of us sitting around a table. And there's a guy that I met. Um, he was he did some kind of studio work, like studio recording stuff, and he did beats for companies. And I was like, "Hey man, do you think you could do a beat for like a podcast?" I never ended up using that. I should probably I still have it. I should use it. But I was like, "You think you'd do a beat for a podcast?" And he's like, yeah, yeah, I guess like an intro." And I'm like, "Yeah, like an intro." And he goes, "Yeah, whose podcast?" And I'm like, "Mine." And then Amy looks at me like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, as soon as we get back." And I got back. I'd already been doing some research on microphones and stuff like recorders, stuff like that. I knew nothing about this stuff, but I knew like people are using them and might be the right shit. I
Yeah.
don't know. So I bought a bunch of lights. I bought a kit that came with like 4 microphones and the Rodecaster and 4 crappy headphones. But I set it up in my dining room, and my wife is like, it's ridiculous. What are you doing?" I was like, I said, "Do me a favor. Let's sit down across from each other and let's just have a conversation with these headphones on." Right? We talked for like a good hour and a half.
Wow.
Just we were immersed in it. It was like just having the headphones in and being locked in with somebody is just you just talk about all kinds of stuff. And we haven't done that since. We should probably do a podcast together, my wife and I. But so like I said before, our kids moved out. We had this empty house, and I turned one of the bedrooms into a studio. And I wanted to have my friend Tiffany as my first guest because she's really like she was a like a like she was into like the bikini fitness competitions, and she's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and both things are super hard, right? And I just want to talk to her about like achieving those types of goals, right? But I was so afraid that I was going to screw it up that I had my buddy, who's now my co-host, as my first guest. So like if I screw it up with him, who cares? I don't even
Right.
like the guy. Jokingly, I love the guy. But we sat down and I just interviewed him, and he's my friend. Like I learned more about him in that hour and change that we recorded than I had in like the 7 years I've known him prior. You know what I mean? So we just like, man, that was fun. That was cool. So I started just interviewing people. Um, and I got really deep into like I've got to get like all these big names on my show. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I want to get this guy, I want to get that guy. And one day I'm at a tournament and I'm like, there's so many cool stories in this room. Like, why do I need to get like a famous person? Like I want to ride their coattails to like stardom. It's not gonna happen, right? But so I didn't give up on the idea because I did get Chris Howder. I got some people that I really like. Chris Howder inspired me to do jujitsu. Like when I first started, I wanted to be like him. Like, he was a guy, a little bit older, been doing it a long time. And he's, in my opinion, he's one of the legends in the sport. Right. Um, but I'll tell you a funny story how that happened. I was doom scrolling on Facebook, and I was so mad at myself that I caught myself doing it. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to be on Facebook, I'm going to find somebody to get on the show. And you know how it shows like Facebook will show you like how the person's last post, like when they posted that last post, like he had
Yeah.
posted something that said 1 minute. I'm like, oh, he's still on. So I message him, and he messages me right back. So I message him again, love to get you on the show. He's like, okay, here's my wife's phone number. Call her, she'll set it up. It's like, holy shit. So I've gotten him on the show. Um, Scott Burr, um, Richard Bressler, rest in peace, Richard Bressler. He was on the show. And, so it was like kind of a mix of people remote and people local because I'd love people just wanted to kind of be in the studio. They wanted to see it. And it was always the same thing, like, wow, this is cool. I thought he'd be bigger. Like it's just a bedroom. Um, but yeah, but anyway, I did get a few like Bernardo Faria, stuff like that. And I would have never got them on the show if it wasn't for a good friend of mine, this guy Ryan. Ryan works for Meta. And when jujitsu people get in trouble with Meta, Ryan helps them.
Mm.
So like there's a few people that he helped, like Tom DeBlas and Bernardo. And they're like, hey man, if there's ever anything I can do for you, let me know. And he's like, as a matter of fact, my buddy's got a podcast. How about you give him half an hour? So that's how I got those guys on. So that was really cool. Um my the I love listening to people's stories. This is not evidence of that because I'm just talking about myself the whole time. But I love listening to your story. I love listening to how, salt electrolytes came about. And I still get a laugh when I told you, like, the samples you sent me taste like stuff I get in Mexico. And you're like, you're the second person to tell me that.
Yeah.
The flavors of it, right? But yeah. So it's just basically like listening to somebody's story and just hitting record. That's all it
Yeah.
is, you know? Um, I really wish I would have started like as soon as we decided to do it, because really very few people like watch the video, but everybody listens to the audio. So you just need a cell phone,
Yeah.
literally. You just need a cell phone, and I think you can get like a couple lav mics that hook up to your cell phone for like $100. Boom, you got a podcast. Um, but that's been probably one of the most, how should I put this, man? One of the most gratifying projects that I've ever done. I really enjoy doing that. Like this is I didn't even know we'd gone an hour and a half already. So
No, it's
yeah.
so cool, Alex, because I just had this conversation last Friday. A buddy of mine was asking me like, I know it's a lot of work to edit these episodes and do all this stuff, and I'm like, I know, but it doesn't feel like work to me. I mean, there's some tedium in the editing
Yeah.
process, but this part is one of the funnest things I've ever done that I could ever call it work. I don't
Yeah.
know. It doesn't feel like work. It's just a great time.
Yeah. It is. It is. And there's times when like I'll have I'll have my friends on and we're both crying. You know what I mean? Where they tell me something that's happened in their life, and I'm just like, man, I'll give you an example. My friend Amber, she's a tattoo artist, and she had a rough, childhood, coming up. It's kind of rough. And she's telling me she's hooked on drugs and she wants to get clean. She desperately wants to get clean. And she's in a house that got raided and she's begging the police to arrest her. And I'm like, well, you didn't do anything and you don't have a record, like you don't have warrants. She's like, you got to get me out of this. And that's kind of what started that process of her getting out of it. And she's raised an amazing kid. She's got a great career. She's a black belt in jujitsu, but it started on that day, and I'm getting chills. It started on that day when she was begging a cop to arrest her. I mean, he didn't because he couldn't, but that was the day that it all started to change for her. And she's had, some hiccups along the way, but I'm super proud of her. I was crying that podcast really got to me. Other friends of mine that that are have these neurological diseases that they can't do anything about. Their body is literally trying to kill them, and they're just trying to stay healthy so they can be there for their kids. It's all that stuff, man. It's even Tom DeBlas opened up about some stuff that he went through as a kid, and I'm like, man, that's wild, man. Why? why do I deserve to hear those kinds of stories, right? And I don't, but now I can get to share them with everybody else, and maybe it'll help somebody,
Yeah.
one of my 12 listeners, as I
When
say.
you're 12. I love it. It is fun. You said it,
Yeah.
you were standing at that tournament and you were looking around, just going, man, there's so many stories just right here. Tell me
Hmm.
this, and this is mostly for my own curiosity, but every person I've invited on this podcast, in some way, shape, or form, has asked me, why me? Why I'm not that interesting? Do you get that a lot?
Mm, yeah. Yeah. And it's really difficult to take someone on a hero's journey that hasn't really done a whole lot, you know? But everybody has a story.
Everybody, yeah,
Everybody has something in their life that they've gone through, that they've come out the other end, and they're just a better person for it. And it doesn't matter who it is. The person can be 12 years old. You can find something in there that they've overcome that can help somebody. Um, I get that a lot, man. The why me? And I'm like, why not
yeah.
you?
Why not
You
you?
know,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. And here's the other thing that I think about these things when I'm interviewing somebody, and I'm like, there's something there. Like I got to dig into that a little bit more. I got to ask more questions, more probing questions on that, because some people will think that their hardships or the trials they've been through are so insignificant that it's no big deal. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. I've had some opportunities that I squandered. There's a guy, black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a dentist, and we got through about an hour and 20 on the podcast, and I didn't know he was an alcoholic. He's
Ooh.
recovering. But he was that guy. He was telling me, he goes, I was that guy sitting in the parking lot drinking vodka because I didn't think anybody could smell it, and then going to train.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh man, that could have helped somebody. And I blew it. Right. So I'm desperately trying to get him back on the show. His name's Robert. Great guy. Great dude. And he reached out to me. He reached out to me asking if he could be on the
Hmm.
podcast. And I never, I think I remember him kind of mentioning something, and I missed it. So we just talked, and then, but yeah, that's an opportunity I squandered. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that could have benefited from his story.
That's an interesting
Super
thing because I had a
successful.
buddy suggest to me, and I'm going to take him up on this because he said he loves listening to the podcast. He loves the stories to hear, but he said some of these
Mm.
people now that we know their story, have them come back on and talk about their specialty and really get into the details of that. And I thought that
Mm.
would be so cool because we've had just such a variety of people on here. To get into the nitty gritty of what
Yeah,
what their specialty is would be such a fascinating thing, man. So I took that
yeah,
as that's a pretty good idea, and it sounds a little bit like that's what you're saying with this guy.
yeah. And there's I've had a guy out here who's he basically he and another person kind of started the whole um tournament scene in Arizona. Gustavo Dantes, he's been around forever. He fought in the first and second world championships in Brazil when it became the worlds in like the 90s. He talks about like weighing in at someone's house the day before the tournament because that's how they did it. It wasn't like, what it is today, right? The prestigious thing that it is today. I asked him like, what was it like competing at the iconic Tijuca, the arena, and he goes, "The place is a shithole."
Yeah, it was terrible.
But yeah. So it was one of those things. But his specialty, like you said, and I want to have him back on the show to do that, is the mindset game.
Mm.
He's the BJJ mental coach. He has a couple books out, and we got to dig into that. We just have to dig into it, and that the thing is with him, you better buckle up because it's going to be 3 hours, 4 hours with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So you better be ready to go. So I definitely want to have him
I
back
think
on.
that would be amazing, man. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, I'll be looking forward to
Yeah.
hearing that when you do it. So,
Yeah, brother. Yeah, man.
Well,
Yeah.
let's move on to
Yeah. Look,
some lighter
can I ask
stuff.
you?
But
Yeah.
what were you about to say?
Okay. Yeah, please. Yeah. No, no, no. I was going to ask you why you started your podcast.
You know, so for me, it was one of those. I was on a road trip and I was driving across the Nevada desert, and I was doing this loop. This was last year, and I was on a salt trip, and I had an event in Vegas, and I had another one in LA, and then I had one in Dallas, and then heading back home. Right, so that's a huge loop.
Mhm.
That triangle is I thought 2,200 miles or something around that thing. And so I had a
Wow.
lot of
Yeah.
time in the car, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
when we get bored, that's when the creative juices start to flow, right?
Hmm.
Um, I
Hmm.
think for me, that's what I hate about getting stuck in the doom scroll is I'm not being creative at
Yeah.
all, and I don't have. You can't be
Yeah.
creative because there's something going through your head the whole time. So that was really refreshing to
Hmm.
just get out there and cruise. And I started realizing, like, man, I'm going to these events and I'm meeting not just legends in the jujitsu world, but really smart business people and really high level athletes.
Mm.
And all these people who have attributes that I look up to. And it's not like a few, it's like a whole bunch. And so you used the word squander earlier.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to squander this thing that's going on in my world at this point in history.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm meeting all these people, and I'm because we're sponsoring events and because we're part of what's going on, we have this connection, right? And so it's like, man, I need to do something with this, and that's where the podcast came from. It's like I'm gonna have these people on here. I'm gonna interview as many
Nice.
of them as I can, um, promote what they've got going on. I'm going to learn from what they've got going on. And so these interviews, I said
Yeah.
it before earlier, where this is a bit of a selfish question. Man, I'm here to learn. So this is the coolest opportunity to be able to do it. And
Yeah.
it's, there's a lot of good that comes of it. So there you go.
That's great, man. I love it.
Yeah.
That's very, very well said. I love that. I love it. And 2,200 miles will give you a lot of time to
It was a lot
think.
of time.
Yeah.
I love that kind of thing. But yeah, by the time that
Yeah.
trip was over, I was ready to be out of the car for a while. So,
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
man. Well, Alex, this is called the Go Earn Your Salt podcast. And I'd be curious to know what that phrase, go earn your salt, means to you.
Oh, man. It may just be a season in my life, but I really believe that, earning your salt is not just absorbing knowledge, but sharing it. And it's, I don't think you've earned anything until you've given it away. So all the knowledge that you gain in jujitsu, all the knowledge you gain in life, all the knowledge that you gain in your business, whatever it may be, if you're not sharing that with other people, I really don't believe that you're earning anything. So that to me, earning your salt, whenever I'm looking at a brown belt and there's a good chance they might be ready for their black belt, I always look at who they're mentoring. And if it's nobody, they're not ready.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting thing right there, right? Yeah. You just circled that around. I don't know if you realize what you just did, but in order to be a good leader, you got to be a good follower. And so if you're not mentoring
Absolutely.
anyone, you're not leading anyone, you're not ready for that next
You're
step,
not.
right?
Yeah. Yep. You
Shoot.
haven't been a good follower yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Good follower mentors those who are following him too, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I've heard that is a pretty common theme, I think, in the jujitsu world. But if you take the business world, you take the athletics world, I think that's a common thread. I think in the church world, right? It's that way everywhere. It's like, man, you got to be pouring
Yeah.
back out what you've received. And dang,
Yep.
we always respect those people who do that well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're some of the best people I know.
Yeah, yeah. Outside of jujitsu, what's your favorite pastime?
Golf.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I am so hooked, dude. Yeah. Yeah. Think of something think of a sport where you're set up to fail. Okay. You're set up to fail and you have to take your eyes off the target every single time. it can be so frustrating. But man, when you crush a great shot, it's pretty cool, man.
It's
It's
funny.
pretty
It's
cool.
been a few years since I
Um,
golfed, but
yeah,
that I always tell people, I was like, when you feel that perfect 300-yard drive and you smack it and it goes straight, you're gonna hit 100
yeah,
crappy ones after that, but you're still gonna remember that perfect one. It's gonna bring you back, right?
yeah.
It's,
That's the only one you remember, man.
yeah,
Yeah. And the thing about golf is, people look at like the professional golfers and think that the amateurs are, you know, could possibly play at their level. Let me just say that we cannot.
no,
It's a different world. It's like we were talking about not having that frame of reference with 20-year-olds. It's like adult worlds versus master
yeah,
worlds. You know what I mean? It's vastly different. Like we're
vastly
playing
different.
the same sport, but it's just two different worlds. Just the amount of focus those guys have is so incredible. It's so incredible. Now they do hit some bad shots, you know, but for the most part, I would say someone asked me like how good they are, and I would say the best golfer at your local golf course is not even as good as the worst caddy on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and that's probably accurate. That's accurate.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So anyway, so yeah, it was one of those things. I was either at home on my way to the academy, at the academy, or on my way home. Like that was my life.
yeah.
And I just wanted to get outdoors, man. I wanted to get outdoors. And, I most times I walk when I play. So yeah, I just get a little extra exercise. If you want to cut weight, walk out in the Arizona summer and go walk 9 holes. You'll drop some
Yeah, can't
pounds.
wait.
So
Holy crap. It's funny, man, because I think that's important. I think when, especially whether you're a businessman and you're focused on that heavily, whether you're an athlete and you've got your sport, you're really participating in a lot. It's a good thing to have another outlet, a hobby or something
yeah,
else and that's something about jujitsu. If there's one thing that will make me not want to be in the gym, it's if I don't get my outdoor time. There's a
yeah,
I'm not on my
yeah.
bicycle or running a trail or out there fishing, doing something that's like I've got to get outdoors and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's well
Well,
said.
what we all have in common, man, is when you get blood work done, we're all vitamin D deficient because we're
Yeah.
just indoors all the time. And when I got my last, well, not last, but my blood work done after I started playing golf, my doc's like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because your vitamin D is great.
Oh, beautiful.
So it's like, okay, that's cool. Yeah. So that's a good sign.
Oh, that's great, man. What's your favorite band of all time?
Oh, okay. So this is a little bit, this is a little bit off the rails here, but do you know who Melissa Etheridge
Yeah.
is? I freaking loved Melissa Etheridge, dude. I freaking love that band. She was so good back in the day. She's still good. Like I listened to her today. I'm like, anyway, so yeah. Ah, isn't that weird?
I don't
It's a
think
little
it's
weird.
weird. I mean, it is what it is, but I'm trying to remember if I know
Yeah.
any other than she had what was her big song that she had in the 90s? It was like
She had I'm the Only One was like the big commercial one where it's on every radio station. There was a Come to My Window. That was another one that
that's
was
the
on the
one.
radio,
That's the
but she
one.
has several albums. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
and
good.
that's what I was trying to
So
remember. Like, do I
freaking
know
good.
any other songs besides that one? It's
I Want to Come Over was another one that was a big hit for her. There's several, but her albums are good, man. She's so freaking good.
that's awesome. Um, what's something quirky that people don't know about you?
I'm afraid of the dark.
Yeah.
I swear to
So when
God,
that
dude.
street lamp went out on
I'm
your
not
run, you
proud of
weren't
this.
you weren't kidding, huh?
I thought I passed out. So no, I'll tell you a funny story. I was out on a deer hunt and I parked my truck like, at the farthest point I could. I'm gonna hike in as far as I can. And it's pitch dark. And I've got a little headlamp, right? And I am every noise in the woods is scaring the hell out of me. And I was like, I had to. I just laughed at myself because I was like, okay, so there's like an axe murderer on the off chance someone's walking out in the middle of these freaking woods, you know? And by the way, I have two guns on me. I think I'm okay. But yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm afraid of the dark.
No, people don't know dark until you.
It's not paralyzing afraid, but I'm hyper aware.
Sure. That's funny to
Yeah.
hear because I've been in those situations, especially out in the woods, man. You don't know dark until you've been out there. It's it's
Yeah.
not neighborhood dark. It's
No.
closet dark. Like
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's animals, like that's where they live. So
Yeah.
I don't know, anything can happen.
Yeah. There's things that want to eat you. I hear you. Uh,
Yeah, I don't think I've told anybody that. Well, my sister knows, but yeah,
Alex, what's your favorite food?
spaghetti and meatballs,
Yeah.
hands down, my favorite.
You didn't
Oh,
waste any
spaghetti and
time on
meatballs. Did I
that.
ever tell you about the? No, did I ever tell you about the worst spaghetti and meatballs I've ever had?
No.
It was awesome.
That's fantastic, man.
That's my favorite meal, dude. Spaghetti and meatballs. I'm a simple
Okay,
guy.
so do you like it noodles down, then sauce on top and meatballs, or do you like it all mixed together?
Noodles down, sauce, meatballs, then sauce on
Okay,
top.
me
And
too.
like, yeah, I like the little outside, no sauce on the outside. So you kind of scoop
Yeah.
it and it kind of, yeah, you get the right amount with every twist of the
Yeah, I have
fork.
no place in my world for the mix it together thing, man. If
No,
somebody makes like a
no.
spaghetti
And
casserole,
people,
forget it. I'm not eating it.
bro, have you ever been next to a person who's cutting their spaghetti with a freaking knife? They're just cutting it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're ruining.
Texture.
It's the whole concept of spaghetti is a twist. Anyway, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, spaghetti and meatballs, hands
And the
down,
bigger and the
favorite meal.
bigger bite, the better it is, right?
Oh,
If you
100%,
can
dude.
fit it
Yeah,
all in and on
yeah,
the fork, it's not proper. It's gotta whip your chin,
that's
right?
right. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me the scariest moment of your life, man. It's probably in the dark, I imagine.
Oh man. Um, this one's easy, but it's man, it's just hard to talk about. The scariest moment in my life was the last time I said goodbye to my mom because I knew that was gonna
That
be it.
wasn't long ago, was it?
Nah, it's 2 years ago. Yeah, that was there was a lot of times when especially when people ask me about um, you know, Spanish words. Like, how do you say this? How do you say that? And I still to this day will say, I don't know. I got to call my mom and ask her. Like, oh, I can't do that anymore. You know? Yeah. That life got scary then because I've had friends pass away. I've had other relatives pass away, but this was the one where I was like, I don't get to talk to her anymore. That was scary.
And yeah, it's weird how long that will stay with you too, because I hear what you're saying. My dad passed
Mhm.
away in 21, and
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
yeah, it's the same thing though. I'll be driving down. There was a spot that I used to, if I was driving my truck, I'd jump on the freeway in one of the on ramps here, and every time I did that, I'd think, oh, I'll call Dad because I'm going to be driving here for a minute, and I'll just call and chat with him while I drive.
Yeah,
And I still
yeah,
do that today, man. I
yeah,
still do that. And
yeah.
it's
Yeah. She was my biggest supporter and the tough decisions like quitting my job, all that stuff. So it was cool.
yeah, beautiful. Dang. Um, what's an item on your bucket list? Something you want to do before you cash it in?
Oh man. Um there's a few, man. Like I don't want to I don't want to climb a mountain or, do anything like that. I want to I've always wanted to go to Australia. I don't know why, but that's one of my bucket list items. And if there's something I could do tomorrow, that would probably be it. I, you know, I've had, I don't want to say I've had opportunities to go, but I could probably go. I don't know that I want to be in a plane that long. Like, I like the idea of being there. I just don't want to get there, but I've always wanted to see Australia,
It's funny, man,
Yeah.
because
But not like,
yeah,
not like the cities, like the rural where everything's out to kill you, Australia.
That's such an interesting thing because there's not many other countries I really would care to go to, but Australia's one, and castles like Ireland, that kind of old European castles.
Oh
I just
yeah,
think would be so cool.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've been to Cove, Ireland, which is if you've never gone to Ireland, go. It's a very cool place.
yeah,
But
seems
yeah,
neat.
like I love fantasizing about going to Australia, but I don't want to be on a plane that long.
Yeah. Well, you have to make stop somewhere along the way. Just make your way over through Asia and
Yeah,
then down. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's probably the way to do it. Yeah,
Oh
but this is
man.
my simple brain, right?
Yeah, I hear you though. That would suck. I think
Yeah,
that long of a plane trip. I don't like. I love flying. I don't like crowds, and so
yeah,
being stuck on an airplane.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
But that's a tough one, like the bucket list thing, because I've done a lot of cool shit in my life. So yeah, but that's the one that I haven't done. So that would be
have
cool.
you ever wanted to skydive?
No, I have no desire. My sister's done it twice, and I will say this though, I did do a job at it was like an airport in Eloy. There was like Eloy, Arizona is a very, very small town. But there was like an Air Force kind of thing where they had like a big bubble. Anyway, there was some AC work they wanted us to look at. Didn't work out.
Mm.
But Skydive Arizona is in that airport. And I saw those pieces of shit airplanes that they bring people up. I'd jump out of that freaking thing too. I wouldn't trust that thing to land. Are you
Such a
crazy?
piece of
It
crap.
looked like a FedEx truck. It was a piece of crap. It was like looked like a FedEx truck with wings. I'm like, what are we doing? People get in that thing for real? I can see why they jump out of it. Absolutely.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, they can be.
Yeah.
It's sometimes, yeah, stuff isn't quite what you expect. You expect this pristine aircraft, but those are just mules, man.
Yeah, yeah, like go, go, go. And you jump out the
Oh,
door. No, this thing had like looked like a FedEx truck. The back was open and you just jump out the back, I guess. I wouldn't know because I'm not doing it, but yeah.
do you have a favorite book?
Um, gosh, man. Favorite book. I will I don't know that I could call it my favorite, but it was a book I read every single year and it was a the Sandler sales system. It was called "You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar," and that was like my sales Bible. So I used to read that book every year just as a refresher because that was the system we used at my former job, and I learned a lot from that book, from my work. But as I don't do a lot of recreational reading, like I'm not really big into fiction, so I like The Power of Habit
Mm-hmm.
comes to mind as one of probably had a pretty good impact on me. I really enjoyed learning why people do what they do. But yeah, that's about the only two that come to mind.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to check that Sandler one out because yeah, every once in a while a good sales book is it's a good read,
Yeah.
right? You learn some nuggets in there for sure.
Well, yeah, yeah. So when we were in when I was in my former job, we would have these big sales meetings and we would talk about the Sandler sales system and all that stuff. And we'd talk about like maybe dissecting one of the chapters, like, when you talk about money and you talk about, closing and you talk about the post sale and all that stuff. And I was like, why don't we talk about the first two chapters? They're all about learning who the hell you are, right? And not having this job be your identity. Like your identity is sacred,
Mhm.
right? Everything else is just a role you play in life, whether it's a parent, whatever, a salesperson, whatever, an oil person, whatever it is. Those are all roles you play. Your identity is sacred. Your identity is something totally different. So if you fail at one of your roles,
Yeah.
it's not who you are, right? That failure is not who you are. I love that chapter, those two chapters. And but those are the things that to me is the real work. The hard part about learning to sell is learning who you are first.
That that's such an interesting deal because I talked about that identity earlier,
Mhm.
right? And after my bankruptcy, and I didn't know who I was,
Mm.
man. There was that time when it was like, huh,
Yeah, so you put your
yeah,
whole
I want to
self.
read that now. You got me
Yeah,
really
yeah,
curious
it's
about
those
it.
great chapters, but it like you put so much into that role that it kind of became what you thought you were, right? So when that role didn't pan out, you think I'm a failure. No, no, you're not a failure. It's just that role didn't work out. You know what I mean? So that's why you got to hold your identity sacred.
Yeah, it's funny because you that was a growth opportunity, right?
Mhm.
That took some time to get through. There was like a mourning process. It was weird. It was
Yeah. Oh,
weird to walk through.
absolutely. I know exactly what you mean, dude. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Um, what's next for you, man? Where are you gonna go from here?
Oh man. Next for me. Um, I really I'd like to open another business, not related to jujitsu. Well, it'd be in the jiu-jitsu family, like acai and coffee kind of thing. But I've always wanted to have a good coffee shop. I love coffee. I love cigars, but I'm not really a cigar bar kind of guy, so that really doesn't appeal to me. But there's a place in Tempe called Steve's Espresso, and in my opinion, they do it right. Like all the furniture, well, the exception of very few things, but all the furniture in there is just stuff you could get at the freaking, Goodwill. It's just
Yeah,
cozy couches, that like literally dinner tables, that multiple people can sit in there. The coffee is amazing.
yeah,
The staff is so good, and they might have four things on the menu. If you can order food, it might be four things. They're not trying to be a restaurant. They're a legit coffee shop, and it's one of my favorite places. So, something I don't know that I would model exactly what they're doing, but I would definitely I would like to have a like a Mexican themed coffee shop. And just because when Amy and I go to Mexico, we hit this coffee shop and their coffee is so freaking good. And it's from Mexico. So that would probably be the next thing I do.
that'd be kind of cool. It's funny because you mentioned the furniture in this place. We have a coffee shop right down the road from me that's got that kind of vibe to
Yeah,
it,
yeah. It's so
but the
cool.
coffee's terrible, man.
Well, maybe they'll make it up with the atmosphere, right? The vibe. But
Yeah, it's funny because I'll meet people there for business stuff, but it's yeah, I just don't love their coffee. But
that's
the
funny.
environment's so cool that it's like, well,
Yeah,
I'll hang here anyways. But
yeah, yeah. No, Steve's is man. They got some good baristas. They're kids, but they're good. I mean, they know what they're doing, so it's kind of cool. And they don't try to be something they're not. They're a freaking coffee shop. That's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a good point. Now, that's in fact that's a subject we could go on for another hour
Yeah,
about.
for sure.
I'm not going. I'm gonna
Yeah, my battery's dying. I'm looking at my batteries like
staying in your lane, right?
yeah, yeah. Let me see what I got.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, we're good.
where can you be found, man? Tell the audience where's
So
Alex?
my school is in Mesa, Arizona. It's East Mesa, and we're off of Guadalupe and Ellsworth. And if anybody is ever in town that listens to this podcast, all you got to do is say you're a friend of Riley's, and you're automatically welcomed to our in our
Mm,
facility for sure.
most people won't admit that though.
Yeah, they'll be like, "I hate the guy. Come on in, you're good." But you can find our podcast, the BJJ Foxcast. It's not related to the Academy, but it kind of is. Like we talk about the Academy a lot. But the BJJ Foxcast is on anywhere you can get a podcast, any platform, and we're gonna start. We're gonna try to do a Patreon, but I'm going to be very careful with that because I want to make sure that I bring value if someone's going to give me money, right? Just like with you, I hope you like the reads that we do. I hope we give you shout outs all the time, and but because I believe that if you're going to take anything from somebody, you better give something back, if not tenfold. So I try to over deliver on that. But Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, BJJ Foxcast or Aries East Mesa BJJ.
You got it, man. We'll stick those links in the description here, so
Thanks, brother.
you'll have it all right in front of you guys. But all right, my friend. Listen, who who should I talk to? You got anybody you'd like to see on here?
Let me think. Let me think. Man, it'd be a cool interview. I'd love to hear. Oh, what's his name? The guy from Show Your Roll. The owner of Show Your Roll. What's his name? Gosh,
His name?
why can't I think of his name? I'll have to send you. I don't know him. I don't know him personally. But my instructor is sponsored by Show Your Roll, And I met him one time. I met him in Vegas. That would be a cool interview just to kind of get that history, of how they got started and how they became this iconic brand in jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
That would
real.
be such a cool interview. Like, yeah, I think that's the first thing that I don't know why that's the first one that comes to mind. But so far, man, I like everything that you're doing, man. It's a great show. You do a great job. Just keep it up, bro.
No, I appreciate those compliments, man,
Yeah.
because I feel like you've been doing this a long time and the podcast part of it anyways. And yeah, so I pay attention now, just doing this kind of thing. And I watch what you guys do. And I'm like, gosh, the cameras are so good. And the editing's so good. The sound is good.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you're just starting something out, like you said at the beginning, or when you were started talking about your podcast, you didn't know what microphone to get, what cameras to get.
No clue,
And
dude.
then,
No clue.
and there's no budget in it at first. And
No.
so it's like, how much equipment do I buy?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. But you gotta be careful because you fall into this trap. Like, what if I had six different angles? Yeah, and like you don't need six angles. Like you really need
yeah,
one camera. But I have five for some reason. I don't know why, but I have five. Yeah, it's stupid. It's stupid. But I obsess about things. Like right now, it's all about lighting. But I refuse to buy new lighting. I'm gonna make it work with the lighting I have. So anyway,
yeah. Hey, listen, dude, I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome. It's been fun conversation. I may pick on you again at some time in the future and go into a little bit more about business and ownership and that sort of a thing, and encourage those new business owners out there. But yeah, in the meantime, go earn your salt, my friend.
thanks, brother. Thank you for everything. I appreciate you.
Hey, you've just finished up this episode, and I want to know, are you or someone you know a getting after it, go earn your salt type of person? If so, message me directly on Instagram at the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and perhaps we can have you on the show. Also, if you like this content, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And perhaps this podcast can help you and them go earn your salt.